Chapter 394. He found that the ground under his feet was not ordinary ground, but a kind of metal. It was a dark red metal, with strange patterns engraved on it. The whole ground was made of this metal. Lu Ming walked to the side. After about 600 meters, he saw a wall. The wall was also made of this metal with patterns of flowers and plants engraved on it. Clang! Lu Ming took out a level, for battle saber from a storage ring, and slashed at the metal wall. The battle saber shook and bounced away. There was not even a mark on the metal wall. This can't be an alchemy furnace, right? Suddenly, Lu Ming had a bold guess. The whole deep pit and the surrounding metal walls made Lu Ming think of an alchemy furnace. An alchemy furnace with a diameter of more than 1,000 meters and a depth of several thousand meters. At the thought of this, Lu Ming gasped a breath of cold air. What kind of elixir was such a huge alchemy furnace used to refine? Buzz. At this time, the stone egg shook and flew in a direction. Lu Ming just realized that there was still this stone egg. Just now, Lu Ming's attention was attracted, and he forgot about the stone egg. This time, the stone egg seemed to have come to life like a living creature, which made Lu Ming very surprised. He had spent a lot of effort before, but there was no movement at all. Is there something here that attracted the stone egg? Thinking of this, Lu Ming chased after it. When he came to the center of the deep pit, the stone egg soared into the sky. The surface of the stone egg was filled with a strange aura, and the tricolored true fire actually avoided it. The tricolored true fire avoided it, and a vacuum area was revealed. A golden elixir the size of a longan was suspended there. Lu Ming's eyes almost popped out. There was actually an elixir here. Moreover, this elixir looked too extraordinary. It was golden all over, like the legendary Great Tao Golden Elixir. On the surface of the elixir, there were real dragons and divine phoenixes flying around. It was very mysterious. Most importantly, Lu Ming felt that this pill contained an endless amount of energy essence. It was definitely a supreme treasure pill. Could it be that such a large pill furnace was used to refine this pill? Could it be that the stone egg's abnormality was also due to this pill? Obviously, the answer was yes. The stone egg crazily rushed to the side of the pill. Its round body was actually trembling slightly as if it was excited. Then, a crack suddenly appeared on the stone egg. Like a mouth, it swallowed the golden pill in one gulp. Lu Ming was dumbfounded. Then, he wailed, "No, at least leave some for me." His cries were incomparably miserable. That pill was clearly a supreme treasure pill. Who knew how many years had passed, but its spiritual essence was still intact. From this point alone, one could tell how terrifying it was. If he took it out, it would definitely be worth a lot. But now, it had been swallowed by the stone egg. "Wastrel!" Lu Ming roared. "Kacha kacha!" The stone egg chewed on the pill as if it was eating candy. Kacha kacha sounds could be heard. At the next moment, Lu Ming saw traces of golden powder floating down from the stone egg. This was a trace of residue accidentally leaked out when it was chewing the pill. These fragments also rippled with powerful spiritual essence fluctuations. "I can't waste it." Lu Ming gritted his teeth. He controlled the 9 dragons' bloodline, opened his mouth, and instantly sucked the residue into his mouth. Boom, boom. When the residue was sucked into his mouth, Lu Ming felt as if thousands of volcanoes had erupted all of a sudden. Endless energy essence burst out, and the 9 dragons' bloodline swelled up like a balloon, almost bursting. Endless energy crazily swept over. It was really too powerful. Lu Ming was almost scared to death. He then shouted, "Refine, refine for me." He controlled the 9 dragons' bloodline and frantically tried his best to refine it. Huff, huff, the 9 dragons' bloodline was 100 meters long in the shape of a flood dragon. At that moment, it had turned into a fat worm that had become round and bulging. A vast amount of energy surged into Lu Ming's body. This energy was extremely pure. There was almost no need to refine it, and it was converted into genuine qi. The cyclone in his dantian spun crazily. Lu Ming's cultivation started to soar crazily. Originally, Lu Ming's cultivation had reached the early 6th stage of the martial ancestor realm. Now, it was rising rapidly. In a few breaths' time, he had reached the late 6th stage of the martial ancestor realm. However, he had no intention of stopping and continued to soar. No, the energy is too strong. I can't convert it in time. Lu Ming realized that the speed of his cultivation was not as fast as the speed of the energy surging into his body. The majestic energy brought great pressure to his physical body and meridians. It was as if they were about to explode. Absorb. The bloodline is also absorbing. Lu Ming did not care anymore. He controlled the 9 dragons' bloodline and frantically absorbed the energy. With the absorption of the bloodline, the pressure on Lu Ming's body finally decreased. However, the speed of his cultivation was still terrifying. In just 1 minute, Lu Ming's cultivation had reached the peak of the 6th stage of the martial ancestor realm. Roar! At that moment, the 9 dragons' bloodline roared, and 3 silver chakras appeared on his body. Level 3 King, class bloodline. The 9 dragons' bloodline had leveled up. Lu Ming was overjoyed. This elixir might contain the blood essence of a supreme being. Otherwise, the 9 dragons' bloodline would not be able to level up. Lu Ming pondered. That was because ordinary energy could not level up the bloodline. However, this was a good thing. When the 9 dragons' bloodline leveled up, the devouring and refining power would be stronger, and the refining speed would be faster. Boom! 2 minutes later, Lu Ming's body shook, and the cyclone spun crazily. 7th stage of the martial ancestor realm. In just a few minutes, Lu Ming's cultivation had increased by an entire level. This was simply unbelievable. However, it was not over yet. It was still going on. Roar! After a while, the 9 dragons' bloodline roared again, and another silver chakra appeared on his body. Level 4 King class bloodline. The 9 dragons' bloodline had leveled up again. If this was seen by others, they would probably be scared to death. Whoosh! Whoosh! After leveling up twice, the 9 dragons' bloodline finally withstood the pressure. Although its body was still round, it was no longer in danger of exploding. The leveling up continued. The early stage of the 7th stage of the martial ancestor realm, the middle stage of the 7th stage of the martial ancestor realm. Before long, Lu Ming's cultivation had reached the peak of the 7th stage of the martial ancestor realm. At that moment, the 9 dragons' bloodline had leveled up again and reached the 5th stage of the king class. It's time to level up the 2nd bloodline. Lu Ming had an idea. He began to control the 9 dragons' bloodline and transfer a large amount of energy to the 2nd bloodline. Lu Ming always felt that the 2nd bloodline was extraordinary. There was a huge stone tablet with fog on it. There seemed to be words on it, but they could not be seen clearly. Lu Ming repeatedly tried to comprehend something from the stone tablet, but he always felt that he was blocked by a mysterious force and could not comprehend it. Now, the 2nd bloodline could only enhance Lu Ming's strength and defense. Chapter 395. Lu Ming was looking forward to the 2nd bloodline because it was awakened in his body, unlike the 9 dragons' bloodline, which was awakened with the 9 dragons' blood essence. With the influx of surging energy, the chakra of the 2nd bloodline shone brighter and brighter. The energy of the 9 dragons' bloodline was about to be exhausted. A few more minutes passed. The 2nd bloodline vibrated and made a buzzing sound. on the basis of the original 4 silver chakras. The 5th chakra was condensed. The second bloodline was promoted to the 5th tier of the king class. When the second bloodline was promoted to the 5th tier of the king class, the fog on the stone tablet seemed to have faded a little. However, the words on the stone tablet could not be seen clearly. He could only vaguely make out that there were 3 words. At this moment, there was a roar in Lu Ming's body. An extremely powerful aura soared into the sky and made a big hole in the 3-colored genuine fire above his head. The 8th tier of the martial arts grandmaster realm. Lu Ming broke through and reached the early stage of the 8th tier of the martial arts grandmaster realm. At this time, the energy of the elixir residue was finally completely refined. Whoosh! Lu Ming opened his eyes, and 2 beams of light shot out from his eyes and shot hundreds of meters away. The 8th tier of the martial arts grandmaster realm is too powerful. Lu Ming was overjoyed when he felt that the genuine qi in his body was more than 10 times stronger than before. Not only that, but even the 2 bloodlines were continuously upgraded and reached the 5th tier of the king class. This saved Lu Ming a lot of blood essence. Moreover, the 9 Dragons bloodline had upgraded by 3 levels, and its devouring power was more than 10 times stronger. When it was used, the effect on others would be greatly enhanced. What kind of elixir is that? Its efficacy is too terrifying. It's just a little residue, but it can make my cultivation and bloodline improve crazily. How terrifying would it be if it was a whole elixir? Thinking of this, Lu Ming hurriedly looked up. A stone egg the size of a human head floated in the air, emitting an intense light. What was different from before was that the stone egg was now emitting a dense life force. It was not like before when there was only a sliver of life force. What kind of egg is this? It can refine a whole elixir. This is too terrifying. Lu Ming shouted in his heart. He had only refined a small amount of residue, and he almost exploded. If he were to consume the entire elixir, he had no doubt that he would explode instantly. However, the stone egg could refine the whole elixir, which was really strange. The vitality in the stone egg was getting stronger and stronger. What on earth is inside? Is it going to hatch? Lu Ming thought to himself as he looked at the stone egg with anticipation. Unfortunately, he was disappointed. After the stone egg emitted a burst of bright light, it quickly quieted down. To the stone egg, he didn't even hatch the pill. He refined an entire pill, and yet he didn't show off. Lu Ming was dumbfounded. At this moment, the stone egg floated down slowly and landed in front of Lu Ming. Lu Ming stretched out his hand and tried to lift it, but it did not budge. Why is it so heavy? To the stone egg. Isn't this too heavy? Previously, it was only about 1 million kilograms. Now, it's at least 10 million kilograms. Lu Ming was shocked. What kind of egg is this? It's unbelievably heavy. Keep. Lu Ming wanted to keep the stone egg in the Temple of Paragon, but the stone egg didn't move in his hand. No way. I can't keep it. Lu Ming was speechless. He continued to try, but gave up after a while. He could keep it in the Temple of Paragon before, but now he couldn't even keep it in the Temple of Paragon, let alone a storage ring. It was useless. Don't tell me that I'm going to have to carry this stone egg that weighs tens of thousands of kilograms everywhere in the future? Then I'll die of exhaustion. Lu Ming widened his eyes and stared at the stone egg. He was speechless, but he couldn't bear to throw the stone egg away. The stone egg was too strange. Lu Ming couldn't bear to throw it away. Buzz! At that moment, the stone egg in Lu Ming's hand moved. It shone faintly and flew a few rounds in the air. At the same time, the stone egg shrunk rapidly. In the end, it shrunk to the size of a fingertip and landed on a strand of hair beside Lu Ming's ear. It hung on his hair and swayed. He couldn't feel its weight at all. This works too. Lu Ming's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. After a while, he was overjoyed. This was good too. It solved a big problem for him. Now, people from the Serene Demon Palace, wait for me. Lu Ming looked up with bright eyes. Immediately, Lu Ming walked to the side of the pill furnace and climbed up along the pill furnace wall. There was an inscription array here, so he couldn't fly. Lu Ming climbed up along the wall like an ape. When he entered the three-colored primordial fire, the stone egg on his hair shone faintly, and a cool feeling spread throughout his body. The three-colored primordial fire had no effect on Lu Ming. Soon, Lu Ming passed through the flames and returned to the platform. There was no one there. The people from the Serene Demon Palace must have entered the passage ahead along the two chains. Lu Ming moved. He stepped on the chains and rushed to the opposite side. When he reached the opposite side, he rushed forward. After a few miles, Lu Ming felt his body lighten. The pressure around him disappeared, and Lu Ming could fly again. Whoosh! Lu Ming's speed increased by dozens of times, and he rushed forward. In a few breaths, he rushed through the long passage. In front of him, there was a shout. Quick, quick, dig up these spirit herbs. Some of them are extinct in the outside world. If we bring them back to the sect to sell, they will be invaluable. A rough voice was heard. It was the voice of the tall youth from the Serene Demon Palace. Whoosh! Lu Ming rushed out, and a wide grassland came into view. The grassland was hundreds of acres wide, and there were all kinds of spirit herbs on it. At a glance, there were level 1, level 2, level 3, and all the way to level 4 spirit herbs. There were all kinds of them, and they were full of vitality. Some of them were strange, and Lin Fan had never seen them before. Medicinal field. This was a real medicinal field. However, there were no traces of level 5 spirit herbs. It's you! Lu Ming rushed out and naturally alarmed the people from the Serene Demon Palace. More than 20 pairs of eyes looked at Lu Ming. When they saw Lu Ming, they were stunned. Kid, you fell into the three-colored primordial fire, and you didn't die? Euphasure exclaimed in disbelief. If you didn't die, how could I? Lu Ming smiled faintly, and his eyes turned cold. Ha, kid, I don't know if I should call you stupid or brainless. I don't know what method you used to escape from the three-colored primordial fire, but since you escaped, you didn't take the opportunity to escape. Instead, you came here to die. You're the only one in the world. Euphasure laughed loudly. His tone was filled with disdain. Laugh all you want. You're about to die. There's no harm in laughing a little longer. Lu Ming smiled coldly. Kid, you're the one who's about to die. Clang! With a cold shout, a sword light slashed at Lu Ming. Chapter 396. Other than Euphasure, he was one of the most powerful experts from the Serene Demon's Hall. He was at the peak of the martial arts Grandmaster realm and a triple battle talent. He was even more powerful than Fei Yuan. As the sword radiance flashed, the space trembled. First one. Lu Ming muttered. He moved his hand, and his genuine chi formed a long spear. He thrust it at his opponent. Bam! As the long spear swept past, the sword radiance collapsed like a piece of tofu. The spear hit the expert hard. Bam! In an instant, the expert's eyeballs popped out. Before he could even scream, his body exploded. His flesh and bones were stimulated by the force and pierced through the experts from the Serene Demon's Hall. How could this be? Watch out! The people from the Serene Demon's Hall were shocked. Then chaos ensued. Their genuine chi exploded to block the flesh and bones that were piercing through them. Poof! Poof! It was as if bullets had hit their bodies. Instantly, more than a dozen disciples from the serene demon's hall, who were weaker, had bloody holes in their bodies. They fell to the ground and screamed. How could this be? Euphasior shouted in disbelief. He had killed a triple battle talent who was at the peak of the martial arts grandmaster realm in one move and severely injured more than a dozen experts. How could this be possible? Even he could not do it. I have to thank you for this. Under the three-colored genuine fire, I had a fortuitous encounter, and my cultivation sword. Lu Ming looked at Euphasior and said with a faint smile, No, it's impossible. Euphasior shouted. He could not accept this. He had wanted to kill Lu Ming, but instead, he had helped Lu Ming and allowed him to have a fortuitous encounter. How could there be such a thing in the world? When he thought of this, he was so depressed that he wanted to go crazy. Die! Lu Ming shouted coldly. Boom! His figure moved, and he took a step forward. 9 dragons' sky-stomping steps. An unimaginable force exploded from Lu Ming's feet. Block it! Block it for me! Euphasior roared and joined forces with the remaining 5 or 6 people to block with all their might. However, everything was in vain under Lu Ming's attack. Bam! Bam! Bang! Apart from Euphasior, the other disciples of the serene Devil Palace screamed as their bodies exploded, including those who were injured. Roar! The bloodline of the 9 dragons flew out and devoured everyone's essence blood. Euphasior's situation was not much better. Under Lu Ming's attack, many of his bones were broken. He lay on the ground like a pile of mud. How could this be? Euphasior roared, finding it hard to bear. Lu Ming actually killed him because of his fortuitous encounter. This was simply too laughable. He really wanted to roar at the sky and ask the heavens why they were treating him like this. What's your name? You can go now, Lu Ming coldly said. With a flick of his finger, a spear light flew out and pierced Euphasior's throat. Lu Ming was now in the early stage of the 8th realm of the martial ancestor realm. He was close to being a Battle 5 genius. Killing Euphasior and the others was as easy as cutting grass. After killing Euphasior, Xiao Chun devoured his essence blood and put away the storage ring of the Netherworld Demon Palace disciple. Then Lu Ming looked around. There were all kinds of spiritual herbs in the herb field. However, they were all level 1, level 2, and level 3 spiritual herbs. The highest was level 4. Although there were some rare spiritual herbs, they were too low level and were not of much use to Lu Ming. Why aren't there any level 5 spiritual herbs? Lu Ming pondered. Then he took out Euphasior's storage ring and looked at it. He was overjoyed. There were more than a dozen level 5 spiritual herbs in Euphasior's storage ring. They emitted a strong medicinal fragrance. It was not that there were no level 5 spiritual herbs here, but that they had been dug up by Euphasior and the others. After taking another look at those low-level spirit herbs, Lu Ming began to pluck some of the level 4 spirit herbs. As for the low-level spiritual herbs, Lu Ming could not be bothered to pick them up. Even if there were less of them in the outside world, Lu Ming was not an inscription master and did not know how to plant them. After digging them up, they would probably die. After plucking the level 4 spirit herb, Lu Ming's figure moved and he headed forward. There was a passage at the end of the herb field. Lu Ming rushed into the passage and disappeared. At this time, in the depths of the ruin, there was a huge bronze palace. The gates of the bronze palace were tightly shut. At the entrance, there were 4 small statues of the azure dragon, white tiger, vermilion bird, and black tortoise. They were about 1 meter tall. At this time, there were more than 100 people gathered in front of the bronze statues. Han Liumu, Yi Tianen, Wu Hui, and the others were among them. But at this time, they were in a sorry state. especially Han, Liumu, Yi Tianan, and the others. There were many injuries on their bodies. Their auras were weak, and their faces were pale. The three factions originally had more than 100 people, but now there were only a few dozen people left. The others were all disciples of the Serene Demon Palace in black robes. They surrounded Han Liumu and the others. "You Feiyu, we've given you the key to this ruin. Now, can you let us go?" Han Liumu looked at the leader of the Serene Demon Palace. This person was the strongest disciple of the Serene Demon Palace. "You Feiyu, let you go? There are only 3 of the 4 symbols keys. We're still missing the White Tiger key. Before the 4 keys are gathered, don't even think about leaving." Yu Feiyu sneered. "We've already said that the White Tiger key is not with us." Han Liumu gritted his teeth. "I don't care about that. You came in together. Without the 4 keys, you can't enter the Bronze Palace. Stay here obediently." Yu Feiyu said indifferently. His tone was unquestionable. "Damn it, Yu Feiyu, don't go too far. You've already killed so many of our people. Now that we've given you the keys, you want to go back on your words?" Yi Tianan roared. "Ha ha!" Yu Feiyu sneered. His eyes were filled with mockery. "So what if I'm bullying you? Can you resist? In this world, the weak have no right to speak. Right now, your fates are in my hands. Whether I let you go or not depends on my mood. You understand?" Yu Feiyu looked down at Han Liumu, Yi Tianan, and the others. His tone was filled with arrogance. Kiki, Han Liumu gritted his teeth. His eyes were bloodshot. Humiliation, incomparable humiliation, filled their hearts. They were on the verge of exploding. However, they knew that if they resisted, they would die. Thus, they could only endure it. Yu Feiyu glanced at Han Liumu and the others. Then he looked at the passage on the left and frowned. Yu Feiyu still hadn't arrived. This made him somewhat unhappy. "What's wrong with Yu Feiyu? He took so long to deal with a small fry. This guy is getting more and more unreliable." A big-nosed youth beside Yu Feiyu said, "Maybe he's delayed by something." Another person said, "Could he have been killed?" "Hee, Senior Brother Feiyu, let me go check the situation." Chapter 397. Yu Feiyu nodded and ordered, "Junior Fei, go and check the situation. Find Junior Feiyu and tell him to bring the White Tiger key to meet us." "Yes." The big-nosed young man cupped his fists and was about to leave. At this moment, a voice rang out, "No need. Your junior brothers won't be able to come." "Who is it?" Yu Fei shouted coldly. Yu Feiyu and the others couldn't help but look at the passage on the left. A young man who was not even 20 years old walked out. "Lu Ming, Brother Lu." Han Liumu, Yi Tianan, and the others exclaimed when they saw the young man. This young man was Lu Ming. He followed the passage in the herb field and arrived here. When he arrived, he heard the conversation between Yu Feiyu and the others. "It's you? Kid, you're still alive?" The big-nosed young man shouted coldly. "Nonsense. Of course I'm still alive. Are you blind?" Lu Ming curled his lips and reprimanded. "You." The big-nosed young man's breathing stagnated, and his eyes flashed with killing intent. "Kid, it seems like Yu Feiyu and the others didn't find you and let you escape. However, you came here. This is your fate. No one can save you. Hurry up and hand over the White Tiger key. I'll give you a quick death." The big-nosed young man scolded with a haughty expression. "There was a big guy who was as arrogant as you. In the end, I sent him on his way. It seems like I'll have to send you on your way too." Lu Ming smiled, faintly, murderous intent flashing in his eyes. "What? You killed Yu Feiyu? Shameless boasting. I'd like to see how strong you are." The The big-nosed young man stepped forward, and his sword flashed. A cold sword light slashed towards Lu Ming's head. It was as fast as lightning. 8th stage martial ancestor realm. This big-nosed young man was no weaker than Euphasure. With a flick of his finger, the demon-banishing spear appeared in his hand. Just as Lu Ming was about to sweep out with his spear, at this moment, the stone egg hanging in his hair suddenly flew out and turned into the size of a human head. It ignored the sword light and sword aura, rushed past it, and smashed into the big-nosed young man's face. It just so happened to hit the big-nosed young man's nose. "Kacha!" The big-nosed young man screamed and fell to the ground. Whoosh! The stone egg flew back and floated in front of Lu Ming, bouncing back and forth like a mischievous rubber ball. He seemed to be extremely excited. Lu Ming was tongue-tied and dumbfounded. Yu Feiyu, Han Liumu, and the others were dumbfounded. Is this even possible? What kind of stone is this? Lu Ming threw out a stone, and it actually injured the big-nosed youth with a single strike. What kind of treasure was this? At this moment, the big-nosed young man was lying on the ground, screaming in agony. His face was covered in blood, and the area around his nose had completely caved in. Even his facial features could not be seen clearly. Everyone broke out in cold sweat. How pitiful! This stone egg! Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He stretched out his hand, wanting to grab the stone egg. Unexpectedly, the stone egg was very lively. It jumped a few times in the air and landed on Lu Ming's shoulder. Lu Ming did not feel any weight at all. "Ha! This stone egg is so lively. What is it?" Lu Ming was even more curious. He suddenly felt that the pill had not been wasted. "Attack together. Be careful of that stone egg." Yu Feiyu gave the order, looking at the stone egg on Lu Ming's shoulder with a grave expression. He was not confident that he could defeat the big-nosed young man with a single strike. Whoosh! Whoosh! With a flash, the disciples of the Netherworld Demon Palace surrounded Lu Ming and looked at the stone egg with fear. None of them wanted to be hit like that. As for Lu Ming, they instinctively ignored him. As for Han Liumu and the others, their eyes flickered with hope. They had already given up hope. Even though Lu Ming had arrived, they did not have much hope. They knew that Lu Ming's combat strength was about the same as theirs. It was impossible for him to be a match for the experts of the Netherworld Demon Palace. However, they did not expect that Lu Ming would throw out a stone egg and defeat the big-nosed young man with a single strike. This gave them hope. The stone egg on his shoulder glowed. Whoosh! Suddenly, the stone egg flew out again and smashed toward a 7th stage martial ancestor realm genius. That genius was shocked. He roared and unleashed his full strength. His bloodline power and true chi erupted as he set up a dozen defenses. However, it was useless. Bang! The stone egg instantly passed through the defenses and smashed into the young man's head. The young man screamed as his head cracked open like a watermelon. He fell to the ground and died. A one-hit kill. Everyone sucked in a cold breath, especially the disciples of the Netherworld Demon Palace. Their faces were filled with fear. Even Yu Feiyu was shocked and fearful. Whoosh! After killing one of them, the stone egg flew back to Lu Ming's shoulder and jumped around excitedly. "Let's attack together. That stone egg can only deal with one person at a time. Let's attack together and kill this bastard. Then the stone egg will become an ownerless object, and we won't be afraid of it." Yu Feiyu shouted, "Kill! Kill!" 70 to 80 disciples of the Netherworld Demon Palace charged toward Lu Ming. Instantly, 70 to 80 rays of sword chi surrounded Lu Ming from all directions. The space around them boiled and was stirred up by the sword chi. The power of 70 to 80 geniuses attacking at the same time was too shocking. Then all of you can die. Lu Ming's eyes were filled with killing intent. Boom, boom. Lu Ming's second bloodline power was unleashed, greatly increasing his strength. At the same time, the 9 dragons' bloodline power flew out and opened its mouth to roar. A terrifying, devouring power erupted and enveloped the disciples of the Netherworld Demon Palace. Suddenly, not good. My bloodline power is leaving my body. My essence blood is unstable. It's going to rush out of my body. The disciples of the Netherworld Demon Palace screamed in fear. In an instant, the sword chi became chaotic. Now that Lu Ming's cultivation had improved greatly, and his 9 dragons' bloodline power had risen by 3 levels, how terrifying was his devouring power! Those whose cultivation levels were lower than Lu Ming's were almost unable to control their bloodline power and were sucked out of their bodies. They were unable to unleash much of their combat strength. 9 dragons stomping the sky. At that moment, Lu Ming executed the 9 dragons stomping the sky steps. Boom! The entire space trembled. Then, bam, bam. The disciples of the Netherworld Demon Palace exploded like rotten potatoes. Drops of essence blood flew into the mouth of the 9 dragons' bloodline power. 81 people. With this stomp, 81 people were killed. Only Yu Feiyu and 3 other disciples of the Netherworld Demon Palace were still alive. The 3 of them were all martial ancestor realmate and above, but they were half dead. Even Yu Feiyu was in the same state. He was the number 1 genius of the Netherworld Demon Palace. His cultivation level had reached the mid-stage martial ancestor realmate, and his combat strength had surpassed that of the 3 battle geniuses. However, under Lu Ming's stomp, he was still severely injured. He knelt on the ground and vomited blood. How could this be? How could this be? Yu Feiyu screamed, hysterically as if he had gone mad. He found it hard to accept this. With one move, the most elite disciples of the Netherworld Demon Palace were all killed. How could he be so powerful? Chapter 398. Could it be that Lu Ming had been hiding his strength all this time? Yu Feiyu felt like he was dreaming. Brother, let me go. Please let me go. I can give you everything I have. Yu Feiyu cried out. He didn't want to die. He didn't want to die at all. He was the strongest among the younger generation of the Serene Devil Hall, and he would definitely inherit the position of Hall Master of the Serene Devil Hall in the future. He would become the overlord of a large region, ruling over vast mountains and rivers, millions of citizens, and countless beauties. He could get whatever he wanted. With such a great future in front of him, how could he be willing to die? Compared to his life, what was face? Let you go? After I kill you, won't your belongings be mine? Lu Ming sneered. No, don't kill me. I know of a treasure. As long as you let me go, I'll tell you the location of the treasure. Yu Feiyu cried out. On the side, Han Liumu, Yi Tianan, and the others watched this scene with complicated feelings. Yu Feiyu, who was high and mighty and controlled their lives, was now begging for mercy in front of Lu Ming like a dog. How quickly the world changed. It was truly miraculous. This was the change brought about by strength. In the martial world, the strong were supreme. Only the strong could rule over everything. It was no wonder that most cultivators wanted to increase their cultivation, not hesitating to take risks. Treasure? Lu Ming's eyes flashed. Then tell me the location of the treasure first. Promise to let me go first, then I'll tell you the location of the treasure. Yu Feiyu cried out, his eyes flickering. Seeing that Lu Ming seemed to be interested in the treasure, his heart was filled with hope. He was thinking about how to negotiate with Lu Ming. But in the next moment, whoosh, a spear light shot out, piercing through Yu Feiyu's heart. The powerful energy crushed Yu Feiyu's heart. Why? Yu Feiyu cried out in despair. His eyes popped out like a dead fish's, filled with disbelief. Even in his dreams, he couldn't understand why Lu Ming would suddenly want to kill him. Wasn't her heart already moved? Let's not talk about whether what you said is true or not. Even if there is such a treasure, I won't let you go. I don't want to leave behind future troubles because of an unknown treasure. A faint voice sounded from Lu Ming's mouth. Yu Feiyu roared unwillingly and stopped breathing. After that, Lu Ming's figure flickered as he killed the remaining disciples of the Serene Devil Palace. At the same time, he did not let go of any of their storage rings and blood essences. On the side, Han Liumu, Yi Tianen, and the others were dumbstruck. Brother Lu, thank you for saving me. Han Liumu stepped forward and cupped his fists at Lu Ming in gratitude. Nothing. I was just passing by, Lu Ming said indifferently. Then he walked towards the entrance of the Bronze Palace. Han Liumu and the others watched from behind and didn't follow. Lu Ming walked to the entrance and waved his hand. Instantly, 4 keys appeared in his hand. Lu Ming didn't return them to Han Liumu and the others. He got them from Yu Feiyu, so naturally they were his spoils of war. He wasn't so kind as to return them to Han Liumu and the others. Buzz. As soon as the 4 keys appeared, they aimed at the 4 statues and flew into their mouths. Crack! The entrance of the Bronze Palace slowly opened, revealing the dark environment inside. Lu Ming did not hesitate. In a flash, he dashed into the door and disappeared. Behind him, Han Liumu, Yi Tianan, and the others looked at the entrance with uncertain expressions. Brother Han, are we going in? Yi Tianan asked Han Liumu. Han Liumu's eyes flickered, as if he was hesitating. After a while, he sighed and said, You've all seen Lu Ming's strength. It's unfathomable. I think he was hiding his strength when he fought with the flying ape. He's definitely a peerless monster from some super region. This kind of person's temper is unpredictable. If we go in and make him unhappy, we'll die in his rage. Han Liumu looked at the entrance with fear in his eyes. I agree with Brother Han's opinion. This kind of person isn't someone we can provoke. Let's leave this place. Wu Hui also said. Yi Tianen sighed. Although he was unwilling, there was nothing he could do. Immediately, Han Liumu and the others left one by one. They went back and searched for treasures along the way. There was a deathly silence in the bronze hall. After Lu Ming rushed into the entrance, he saw a large hall. There were several large alchemy furnaces in the hall. However, these furnaces were all corroded and had lost their spirituality. Lu Ming walked around the hall, but found nothing. There was another bronze door at the back of the hall, but it was closed. Lu Ming pushed hard. With a click, the bronze door opened. There was no need for a key. The bronze door opened, and Lu Ming walked in. This was a room that looked like a secret room. It was much smaller than the hall. There were 2 shelves on both sides. On the shelves, there were some bottles and jars. In the middle of the room, there was an alchemy furnace. On the side, there was a table. Lu Ming first walked towards the shelves and picked up the bottles and jars. Unfortunately, although there were pills inside, they had turned into ashes under the corrosion of time. All the pills and spirit medicines were useless. Lu Ming was greatly disappointed. He walked toward the table again. On the table, there were 2 things. A box made of unknown material. It was unknown how many years had passed, but it was still intact. Lu Ming picked up the box and opened it to take a look. Suddenly, he was stunned. In the box, there were dozens of crystals. Each of them was about the size of a longan. Moreover, they were divided into many colors. Some were yellow, some were blue, some were red, some were green. The most important thing was that each crystal was emitting a mysterious aura. It was similar to force, but it was many times more mysterious than force. Lu Ming reached out and picked up a fiery red crystal. After carefully examining it, his body trembled slightly. His eyes were filled with ecstasy. This is an ultimacy crystal. Ha! This is definitely an ultimacy crystal. Lu Ming almost laughed out loud. He had never imagined that he would be able to find ultimacy crystals here. Moreover, there were dozens of them. An ultimacy crystal was born from the ultimacy of heaven and earth. It would take a long time to produce one. An ultimacy crystal contained a rich intent of heaven and earth. It could be used to comprehend the intent of heaven and earth. After one's force reached perfection, if one used an ultimacy crystal to comprehend intent, one could quickly comprehend true intent. If a martial king used an ultimacy crystal to cultivate, it would greatly speed up the comprehension of intent. It could be said that an ultimacy crystal was a treasure that even a martial king would covet. Ultimacy crystals were divided into various attributes. For example, wind attribute ultimacy crystal, fire attribute ultimacy crystal, thunder attribute ultimacy crystal. However, regardless of the attribute, an ultimacy crystal could be sold for at least 1 billion lower spiritual crystals in the market. Chapter 399. Lu Ming counted carefully. There were a total of 29 ultimacy crystals. I'm rich, I'm rich, I'm rich. Lu Ming's eyes shone brightly. He didn't need anything else. Just these Upanishad crystals were enough to make him rich. Lu Ming closed the box and kept it in the Temple of Paragon. Then, Lu Ming picked up the book and flipped it open. This time, Lu Ming was a little disappointed. This was not a cultivation technique manual or a martial technique manual. It was a book about alchemy. It seemed that this ruin was the residence of an alchemy master. Everything about it was related to alchemy. Lu Ming did not know much about the Tao of inscription. After flipping through a few pages, he put it away. Then, he walked toward the alchemy furnace. The alchemy furnace was as tall as a person. It was simple and unadorned. There were various patterns of flowers and plants carved on it. However, it looked black. Although it did not decay like the other alchemy furnaces, it did not seem to have any spirituality. Forget it, I'll keep it first. I might be able to sell it for a good price. Lu Ming smiled and put the alchemy furnace into a storage ring. Lu Ming walked one round and did not find anything. He walked out of the bronze hall and found that Han Liumu and the others were no longer there. Lu Ming smiled and did not mind. He casually chose a path and walked out. After leaving the ruin, Lu Ming did not stay any longer. He turned into a ray of light and flew back to the city. When Lu Ming returned to the city, he heard a piece of shocking news. The Dragon's Cave was opened. Dragon's Cave? Lu Ming was shocked. The Dragon's Cave was said to be the nest of a dragon. A long time ago, a true dragon lived there. It was a very famous magical place in the Dongming ancient battlefield. However, the Dragon's Cave and the surrounding area were all covered by the runes. It could not be opened normally. It was said that even the experts of the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace could not open it. The last time it was opened was a few thousand years ago. Now it was open again. That was a peerless land of treasures. It was said that there were countless spiritual herbs and even secret treasures left behind by the true dragon. Everyone's heart was burning with passion. They all left the city and headed towards the Dragon's Cave. Dragon's Cave. We can't miss it. Lu Ming whispered, his eyes shining brightly. He cultivated the true art of the Dragon of War and the 9 dragons' heaven-stomping steps, awakening the bloodline of the 9 dragons. Everything was related to dragons. Now that he had encountered a dragon's den, how could he miss it? The true dragon battle art had been stuck at the 5th level for a long time, and it was difficult to advance. If he could obtain a treasure related to the true dragon, he might be able to advance to the next level. At that moment, Lu Ming also rose into the air and headed in the direction of the dragon cave. The dragon's den was located in the western part of this place, in a vast mountain range. It was over 1,000,000 li away from this place. Lu Ming sped forward, and when night fell, Lu Ming entered the Supreme Divine Palace. Then, he took out the level 5 elixirs he had obtained from Euphasure and the others. He activated the myriad spirits' battle body and began to strengthen his physical body. Lu Ming's physical body improved rapidly again. The next day, Lu Ming continued on his way. Boom, boom. When Lu Ming passed by a forest, he heard a roar in front of him. There was a battle. Lu Ming moved like a ghost and jumped into the forest. The roar became louder and louder, and Lu Ming quickly approached. He then flew onto a large tree and hid in the leaves, looking forward. Thousands of meters away, more than 100 figures were surrounding a single figure. Jian Fengyun. Lu Ming immediately recognized the figure who was surrounded. It was Jian Fengyun, the genius who was ranked first on the Emperor Cloud leaderboard, and Prince Sky Snake, Blue Cloud, Dao. Yan Feishuan. Lu Ming looked around and saw Prince Sky Snake, Blue Cloud, and the others among the people who had surrounded Jian Fengyun. Not only that, but there were also geniuses from the Thousand River region. Lu Ming saw Li Qiushui, Jiang Chun, and a young man who was ranked 18th in the Thousand River region and had left a scar on Jian Fengyun's face. There were also many experts from the Thousand River region that Lu Ming did not know. Jian Fengyun, I advise you to stop struggling. Today you will die. Prince Sky Snake sneered. Sky Snake, you are despicable. How dare you join the Thousand River region and become their lackeys? I, Jian Fengyun, am ashamed to be with you. Jian Fengyun shouted angrily. At this moment, there were more than 10 wounds on his body that were dripping with blood. Jian Fengyun, don't be so harsh with your words. This is called a wise man submits to circumstances. The geniuses of the Thousand River domain all have the potential of dragons and phoenixes. They are all peerless geniuses. How can we compare to them? Jian Fengyun, if you surrender now, I can help you ask for mercy and spare your life. Prince Sky Snake shouted. Prince Sky Snake was arrogant and thought that he was a rare genius. However, after entering the Dongming ancient battlefield, he realized that he was wrong. There were too many geniuses. Any one of them was not weaker than him, and there were many who were stronger than him. Especially when they encountered the experts of the Thousand River region, he immediately surrendered. Of course, Blue Cloud Dao, Yan Feishuan, and the others also surrendered. As the lackeys of the Thousand River region, they killed those who did not surrender on the Emperor Yun list and besieged Jian Fengyun. This Sky Snake is quite suitable as a lackey. In the crowd, a young man in a blue robe with a large river embroidered on it smiled faintly. Brother Wan is right. The reason why I did not kill them was because I thought that using them would allow me to better control the Cloud Emperor mountain range. It is better than killing them. With his talent, he appeared to be very respectful when he stood next to this young man. That's right. The young man in blue nodded. At this moment, Jian Fengyun was furious and shouted, Wei Sky Snake, you are shameless and cowardly. Why would I, Jian Fengyun, be afraid of death? You are just a bunch of lackeys. Enough. Young Master Sky Snake shouted angrily. Being called a lackey by Jian Fengyun left and right. Young Master Sky Snake's face flushed red. Jian Fengyun, this is all your fault. There's also that bastard Lu Ming. You're blind and audacious. How dare you offend the geniuses of the Qianjiang waters? You're the one who caused all of this. Do you know that? If you had obediently surrendered to the geniuses of the Thousand River region, none of this would have happened today. Young Master Heavenly Snake roared hysterically. That's right, Jian Fengyun. You have only yourselves to blame for this. You failed to recognize Mount Tai, especially that little bastard Lu Ming. He actually dared to injure the elites of the Qianjiang waters. Blue Cloud Dao shouted, "Ha ha, a group of scum. You're shameless. Back then, I should have killed all of you with Lu Ming." Jian Fengyun laughed loudly. "Jian Fengyun, you don't have the chance now. Prepare to die, and that bastard Lu Ming will die sooner or later. You too will accompany him then." Prince Sky Snake sneered. "Is that so? I am right here. Let's see how you are going to kill me." Chapter 400. A voice was heard, and a figure walked out from a tree step by step. The figure was naturally Lu Ming. "Who is it?" Everyone's expression changed, and hundreds of pairs of eyes looked towards Lu Ming. "Lu Ming! Lu Ming, it's you?" Young Master Tian Shi Lan Yundao, and the rest could not help but exclaim when they saw Lu Ming. "Ha! Lu Ming, I don't know if you're stupid. You actually dared to walk out on your own. I admire your intelligence. But this is good too. It saves us the trouble of looking for you." Blue Cloud said with joy on his face. "Little bastard, are you here to beg for mercy? It's too late to beg for mercy now. How about this? If you agree to be my dog for 20 years, I can ask the supreme talents in Qianjiang Water region to spare your life." Li Qiushui sneered. He looked at Lu Ming with a cold and vicious gaze. He wanted to tear Lu Ming into pieces. He thought that Lu Ming had come out to beg for mercy. However, how could he agree so easily? He wanted to humiliate Lu Ming before he killed him. Where did these retards come from? Lu Ming glanced at Blue Cloud, Li Qiushui, and the others, and said indifferently. This sentence, coupled with Lu Ming's disdainful expression, almost made Lan Yundao and Li Qiushui's mouths crooked. "Courting death! You're courting death!" Li Qiushui roared. "Lu Ming, hurry up and leave. You must expose Prince Sky Snake, Blue Cloud, and the others' shameless actions to the public. Don't let the world be deceived by them." Jian Fengyun shouted. "Don't even think about it." Young Master Tianxi, Lan Yundao, and the others' faces fell. What they had done could not be spread out. Otherwise, there would be no place for them in the Cloud Emperor Mountain Range. Swoosh, swoosh, Prince Heavenly Snake and Blue Cloud said. Ji Rafeng, Yang Liuji, and the others moved, pouncing towards Lu Ming. But Lu Ming stood there motionlessly, with a faint smile on his face. Figures flashed. Young Master Heavenly Snake and 10-odd people surrounded Lu Ming. "Ha ha, let's see where you can run now." Young Master Sky Snake sneered. Alas! Seeing this, Jian Fengyun let out a long sigh. There was despair in his eyes. Lu Ming was surrounded. Young Master Heavenly Snake and the rest's despicable actions were no longer spread by anyone. Could it be that the Cloud Emperor Mountain Range would fall into the hands of these people in the future, and then be easily controlled by the Qianjiang Water region? Jian Fengyun was truly unwilling to accept this. "Lu Ming, you ran away last time. Let's see how you're going to run this time." Blue Cloud sneered at Lu Ming. "Oh, if you have the ability, then come at me. Do you believe that I won't slap you to death?" Lu Ming glanced at Blue Cloud and said, "Lu Ming, don't be arrogant. See how I'll kill you." Lan Yundao shouted with a confident look on his face. Boom! A powerful aura rose from Blue Cloud's body. Early stage, martial ancestor, realm, 7th realm. During this period, Blue Cloud's cultivation had made another breakthrough and reached the early stage martial ancestor realm, 7th realm. It was no wonder that he was so confident. Haha, Lu Ming, die. I'll kill you like killing a chicken. Blue Cloud laughed. Blue light burst out from his body, and a resplendent saber light slashed towards Lu Ming. He was indeed much more powerful than before. Everyone in the Qianjiang water region sneered and gloated, but in the face of such a saber light, Lu Ming remained motionless. Don't tell me you're stunned after seeing Blue Cloud's breakthrough. Young Master Heavenly Snake laughed softly. Die, Lu Ming! Go to hell! Yang Liuji roared. He was about to see Lu Ming die in front of him, and he felt extremely comfortable. Ever since he met Lu Ming in the remains of Imperial Yun Palace, he had been suppressed by Lu Ming. He had always hoped that Lu Ming would die. Now, his wish was finally going to come true. Swoosh! The blue saber light was like a blue gem. It was crystal clear and powerful. It was about to hit Lu Ming's head. At that moment, Lu Ming moved. What was even more shocking was that he actually slapped out. Bam! A slap landed on the blue blade light. The blue blade light was like a bunch of fragile bubbles, bursting with a loud bang. Then, the slap didn't stop, slapping towards Lan Yundao's face. Smack! A crisp sound rang out, and Lan Yundao cried out in pain. His body spun a few times in the air under the force of the slap, and then fell heavily to the ground. Lan Yundao glared at Lu Ming, his eyes filled with disbelief. The next moment, with a poof, Lan Yundao's body was torn into pieces, and fresh blood flowed all over the ground. Dead. Blue Cloud was dead. He was slapped to death by Lu Ming. This young Master Tianxi, Yang Liuji Yan Feishuan, and Li Qiushui stared with their eyes bigger than eggs. Their mouths were wide open. How is this possible? You cheated. You must have cheated. After a while, Yang Liuji reacted and shouted hysterically. Blue Cloud, who was many times stronger than him, was slapped to death by Lu Ming. How could Lu Ming be so strong? He found it hard to accept. On the other side, Feng Shenyu, the blue-robed young man, and the other geniuses of the Qianjiang water region looked solemn. You're just an ant. You're so annoying. I'll send you to accompany him. Lu Ming glanced coldly at Yang Liuji. No, Yang Liuji was horrified. He quickly retreated and was almost scared out of his wits. However, swoosh! A spear radiance burst out and pierced through Yang Liuji's throat. Yang Liuji held his throat tightly. His eyes were filled with unwillingness. In the end, he fell to the ground and stopped breathing. Now it's your turn. Lu Ming looked at young Master Tianxi, Yan Feishuan, and the others. Young Master Tianxi and the others were shocked. Lu Ming, don't be arrogant. The geniuses of the Qianjiang water region are here. How can you be tolerated? Young Master Tianxi shouted. Lu Ming's combat strength made his heart tremble. Although he was stronger than Blue Cloud, it was impossible for him to kill him with one slap. Lu Ming's combat strength was definitely above his. Kill. I must kill him with the help of the Qianjiang water region. Otherwise, there will be another Jian Fengyun in the Cloud Emperor Mountain Range. I won't be able to stand out. Young Master Tianxi roared in his heart. He looked at Lu Ming with jealousy in his heart. Qianjiang water region? They won't be able to leave. Lu Ming smiled faintly. However, his words caused an uproar in the Qianjiang water region. What? What does this kid mean? Could it be that he wants to spare our lives? What an arrogant kid. He's a frog at the bottom of a well. He thinks he's invincible just because he has some skills. This kid deserves to die. He dared to talk back to us before entering the Dongming ancient battlefield. We can't let him live. Cold voices were heard in the Qianjiang water region. Even Jian Fengyun was stunned. He did not know what Lu Ming was trying to do. On the other hand, young Master Tianxi, Yin Feishuan, and the others were overjoyed. Lu Ming was really stupid to be so arrogant. They did not need to do anything now. The geniuses of the Qianjiang water region would not let him go. As expected, "I'll kill you." Chapter 401. This young man was wearing a purple shirt and boots, with a purple jade belt around his waist. Even his combat sword was purple in color. His entire being exuded a noble aura. Zidong, the one ranked 19th in the Qianjiang water zone. As soon as this young man appeared, someone exclaimed softly, "Ranked 19th in the Qianjiang water zone." He was already an expert on the same level as Jian Fengyun. Zidong was very arrogant. He looked coldly at Lu Ming and exuded a powerful aura. He said, "Lu Ming, although your combat strength is not bad, you are too arrogant. However, I can give you a chance. If you can take 3 of my attacks and not die, I can consider sparing your life." Take 3 of your attacks and not die? Ha! You are really full of confidence. If you want to fight, do it quickly. I can give you a chance to use your sword. You better use all your trump cards. After that, you won't have a chance. Lu Ming said indifferently. Who didn't know how to be arrogant? How arrogant? Then die. Zidong's killing intent burst forth, and his body emitted a strong purple light. Extreme purple sword technique. Sword from the east. Zidong roared and unsheathed his combat sword. In an instant, the sky was filled with purple qi. Immediately after, in the purple aura, a purple sword gleam pierced toward Lu Ming like a flying immortal from outer space. It was so fast that it left a long trail in the sky. Bam! However, what greeted him was Lu Ming's kick. Lu Ming's kick did not use the 9 Dragons Heaven Stomp. It was just an ordinary kick, but it contained powerful genuine qi, as well as the power of wind and fire. With this kick, the purple sword light shattered, and the kick landed directly on Zidong's face. In an instant, Zidong's face was deformed. He did not even have time to scream before he was sent flying backward. He crashed into 7 or 8 trees and slid on the ground, leaving a deep trail. He lay 1,000 meters away, his body twitching. He was breathing more than he was inhaling. His gasps could be heard. Everyone stared at Lu Ming in a daze. This was too overbearing, wasn't it? He had kicked Zidong to the brink of death with just one kick. What kind of combat power was this? Young Master Heavenly Snake, Yin Feishuan, and the others swallowed their saliva. They felt cold sweat drenching their backs, and their limbs were trembling. They couldn't help but wonder what would happen if Lu Ming kicked them in the face. Jian Fengyun was also in a daze. Then, a hopeful look appeared in his eyes. Lu Ming's strength had exceeded his expectations. The young man in the blue robe and the 5 or 6 young men beside him wore stern looks. "I told you, you only have one chance." Lu Ming glanced at Zidong nonchalantly and then stopped looking at him. "Humph, you're only an 8th layer martial ancestor realm cultivator. Among us, at least 6 of us are on par with you, and many of us are capable of killing you." Inside the Thousand River region, a young man snorted coldly. His body emitted a cold, murderous intent. "Oh, who doesn't know how to talk big?" That guy said the same thing. In the end, he couldn't even take one kick from me. I think you guys at the Thousand River region can only talk big. When it comes to fighting, you're all trash. Lu Ming gave the people of the Thousand River region a provocative look. Presumptuous. You're courting death. Instantly, the people of the Thousand River region were infuriated. With the young man in the blue robe as the center, powerful auras burst out. Their auras soared into the sky like smoke signals. It was extremely terrifying. Cut the crap. Come at me all at once. I'm too lazy to fight you one by one. There was a contemptuous smile at the corners of Lu Ming's mouth as he spoke lightly. What? The geniuses of the Thousand River region were furious. Lu Ming wanted to challenge all the geniuses of the Thousand River region by himself. This was a blatant insult, a blatant disdain. However, young Master Heavenly Snake Yan Feishuan and the others were overjoyed. They roared in their hearts, "Ha! This idiot Lu Ming, he's so arrogant just because he has some combat strength. He dares to challenge all the geniuses of the Thousand River region. He's courting death." Jian Fengyun's expression changed greatly as he yelled, "Lu Ming, you can't. The top 10 geniuses of the Thousand River region are all here. That young man in the blue robe is Jiang Wantian, who is ranked first in the Thousand River region. You can't be careless. You'd better break out of the encirclement quickly." Judging from Lu Ming's previous attacks, Lu Ming was definitely stronger than him. He had reached the 8th grade martial ancestor realm and was definitely a Battle 3 genius. If Lu Ming tried his best to break out of the encirclement, he might be able to kill his way out. However, if he challenged all the geniuses of the Thousand River region, especially Jiang Wantian, he would definitely die. Lu Ming ignored them and continued to speak with disdain. "Hurry up! I've said it before. You can't leave today. If you don't want to fight, I'll do it. Presumptuous and ignorant. I'll kill you." A cold-looking young man roared and stepped forward. A long spear appeared in his hand, emitting a shocking aura. He was a genius in the early 8th grade martial ancestor realm and was definitely a Battle 3 genius. The cold-looking young man was very straightforward. He thrust his spear forward, and a shocking spear ray burst out. "Nice spear technique." Lu Ming smiled faintly, and the demon-banishing spear appeared in his hand. He shook his arm, and the demon-banishing spear shot out. Clang! The spear ray roared, and the two long spears pierced each other. There was a loud explosion, and ripples appeared on the two spears. "Explode!" Lu Ming whispered, and surging genuine qi gushed out. At the same time, the power of wind and fire exploded. Crack! The cold-looking young man's upper LV4 long spear made cracking sounds, and cracks appeared on it. Then the cold-looking young man screamed, and his body flew out like a cannonball. He flew for a few hundred meters before he stopped. There were a few gunshot wounds on his body, and blood spurted out of his mouth. "I've said that you can only talk. When you fight, you're all trash." Lu Ming laughed disdainfully. He then shook his long spear and put it away. The demon-banishing spear should be a LV4 weapon. However, it was made of the same material as a LV5 spiritual weapon. It was extremely sturdy and could withstand Lu Ming's full power. "You are indeed capable. Today we can't let you go. Let's attack together and kill this person." Jiang Wantian said slowly with a grave expression. Lu Ming's strength was too shocking. Even he was not confident that he could win. He could only gather the strength of everyone in the Thousand River region to kill Lu Ming. "I've already told you to attack together. Now that the warm-up is over, I'll send you on your way." Lu Ming smiled faintly. "Kill! Kill!" Jiang Wantian shouted, and a shocking aura rose from his body. Lu Ming felt that Jiang Wantian was not any weaker than Yu Feiyu. But so what? Besides Jiang Wantian, there were 5 other people who had reached Martial Ancestor Realm 8. In addition, there were more than 10 Martial Ancestor Realm 7 experts. With so many experts attacking together, their power was earth-shattering. "Go to hell. Prince Tianxi and the others shouted in their hearts. At the same time, they retreated quickly for fear of being affected. Lu Ming, be careful, Jian Fengyan shouted. Chapter 402. Die. Nearly 20 geniuses of the 7th martial ancestor realm, and each of them was an expert who had surpassed the Second World War. When they attacked together, the entire space was boiling as if it was about to explode. Sword chi, saber radiance, fist force, spear radiance, etc., gathered together and blasted towards Lu Ming. Bam! Lu Ming stomped heavily on the ground and retreated rapidly. In an instant, he had retreated 1,000 meters. Then he took a deep breath, and his body suddenly rose. Heaven's palm! Lu Ming shouted and waved his palm. The spiritual chi of heaven and earth instantly boiled and was drawn over. A huge palm print formed and blasted towards Jiang Wantian and the others. Before the palm print arrived, the terrifying aura had already suppressed everyone's breathing. Jiang Wantian and the other geniuses of the Thousand River territory were shocked because the power of this palm print was too terrifying. Oh no, hold on, you must hold on. Jiang Wantian roared. Stormy waves palm. Jiang Wantian roared as he struck out with his palm. A raging river was formed, and with the momentum of a raging wave, it blasted towards the heavenly Tao palm imprint. At the same time, various sword radiance and fist force exploded and blasted towards the heavens palm print. Boom, boom. With so many people joining forces, the power was indeed terrifying. Various attacks blasted onto the heavens palm print, and after each blast, the power of the heavens palm print would weaken. When more than 20 attacks were exhausted, the power of the heavens palm print was almost gone. Haha, he blocked it. Someone from the Thousand River territory laughed. They thought that Lu Ming could only use such a powerful attack once. What are you so happy about? Second palm print. A faint voice sounded, and the second heaven's palm print formed and blasted towards them. Why is there another one? The experts of the Thousand River territory were in despair. They then unleashed all their strength and attacked. Boom. Once again, it clashed with the heaven's palm print. But this time, before the second palm print could be neutralized, a third palm print formed in the sky and blasted down. No, Jiang Wantian and the others shouted in horror and despair. Boom. The third palm strike slammed down, and they could no longer withstand it. The bodies of some 7th-level martial ancestor realm experts cracked as they were smashed to the ground by the palm force. They died instantly. A few 8th-layer martial ancestor realm experts spat out mouthfuls of blood and fell to the ground with serious injuries. Kill. Lu Ming did not give them the slightest chance. With a wave of his hand, he condensed a dozen long spears and shot them out. Puff, poof, Jiang Wantian, and the others were all pierced through by the long spear and nailed to the ground. In just a few breaths' time, the top 20 geniuses of the Qianjiang Ocean were all killed. At the scene, the remaining people looked at this scene in shock. Oh my God, how could this be? How could this be? Among the people of the Thousand River region, Li Qiushui and Jiang Chun widened their eyes in shock. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. Lu Ming had actually killed one of the top 20 geniuses in the Thousand River domain. How was this possible? They broke out in cold sweat and trembled all over. As for young Master Heavenly Snake, Yen Feishuan, and the others, they were more or less the same as Li Qiushui and the others. They were scared out of their wits. Didn't the two of you want to attack me? Now, I'll give you a chance. Do it. Lu Ming glanced at Li Qiushui and Jiang Chun. Plop. Li Qiushui stammered for a long time, but could not say a word. Suddenly, He knelt down with a plop and let out a miserable cry. Lu Ming, no, Brother Lu, no, Master Lu, I was blind and failed to recognize Mao Tai. You're a true dragon in the sky, and I'm just a pitiful reptile. Please spare me. Plop. As soon as Li Qiushui finished speaking, another kneeling sound could be heard. It was Jiang Chun. Jiang Chun was even more exaggerated. He prostrated himself on the ground and shouted, Young Hero Lu, please spare me too. I have an 80-year-old mother and a fiancé. They will rely on me in the future. As long as you spare me, I will be willing to do anything for you. His cry was so miserable that it was enough to make one cry. Lu Ming was stunned. It was the first time he had seen such a weirdo. Martial artists were prideful. Even if they were afraid of death, they wouldn't beg for mercy shamelessly. Lu Ming, don't listen to them. As far as I know, Jiang Chun doesn't have an 80-year-old mother or a fiancé. He has ruined many good girls. Jian Fengyan shouted, Jian, why do you want to harm me? Jiang Chun shouted, You talk too much. Lu Ming said coldly. He then waved his hand, and two spear radiances flew out. Li Qiushui and Jiang Chun couldn't even react in time, and they were nailed to the ground. Run, run! There were still dozens of youths left in Qianjiang water region, and they were running for their lives. Lu Ming glanced at them and didn't chase after them. Most of the youths in Qianjiang water region had no grudges with him. Lu Ming wasn't a bloodthirsty person, and he wouldn't kill them all. Go! At this moment, young Master Tian Shi and the rest were running in the same direction. Lu Ming looked over coldly. Then he took a step forward, and his body flashed. When he appeared again, he was already in front of young Master Tian Shi and the rest. Lu Ming, what are you trying to do? I know you are from the Blazing Sun Empire. If you dare to touch me, my family will flatten the Blazing Sun Empire. Young Master Tian, she shouted with a pale face. As long as all of you are dead, who will know it's me? Lu Ming smiled faintly and didn't care. He then looked at Jian Fengyan and said, Brother Jian, how about this? I'll let you deal with them. They wanted to kill Jian Fengyan, and he could deal with them. Great, that's what I want. Jian Fengyan flew over and looked coldly at young Master Tian Shi. Wei Tian Shi, die. Jian Fengyan shouted and unsheathed his combat sword. A powerful sword Qi pressed towards young Master Tian Shi. Jian Fengyan, don't think that I'm afraid of you. Let's see who is stronger today. Seeing that he couldn't escape, young Master Tian Shi went all out. Thousand Snake Sword Technique. Shoo! Shoo! Dense sword Qi suddenly shot out from young Master Tian Shi's hand. The sword Qi was like a poisonous snake as it charged towards Jian Fengyan. Sword Wind Rises. Jian Fengyan whispered. Then, a sword radiance suddenly appeared and pierced through the void. All the sword Qi that young Master Tian Shi sent out was destroyed by the sword. Second sword Blood River. Shoo! Jian Fengyan became one as the sword radiance flashed. Spurt! Young Master Tian Shi's throat suddenly spurted out blood. A sword broke his roar. Jian Fengyan, you young Master Tian Shi roared and breathed his last. Run! Yan Feishuan was horrified and almost wet his pants. He turned and ran. Shoo! A sword radiance flashed, and Yan Feishuan's head flew up. Then sword radiance flashed, and the remaining people from the Cloud Emperor Mountain Range died under Jian Fengyan's sword. Traitor! You don't need to live in this world. Chapter 4:03. Lu Ming nodded silently. Jian Fengyan's cultivation had already reached the peak of the 7th level Martial Grandmaster realm. He was only a step away from the 8th level Martial Grandmaster realm. He was indeed far ahead in the Cloud Emperor mountain range. He was much stronger than Prince Tianxi, who was in second place. Of course, Suemo was an exception. Brother Lu, thank you for saving me this time. Otherwise, I would have died in the hands of these despicable people. Jian Fengyan walked over and cupped his fists to thank Lu Ming. Brother Jian, you're welcome. These people have a grudge against me. Even if this did not happen, I would have killed them. Lu Ming smiled faintly. Jian Fengyan sighed. It had not been long, and Lu Ming's cultivation had risen to a level that he could not catch up with. It was shocking. He was sure that Lu Ming was not so strong when he first entered the Dongming ancient battlefield. Otherwise, he would not have let Prince Sky Snake and the others go. Jian Fengyan pondered for a while and said, Brother Lu, are you going to the Dragon's Cave? That's right. Lu Ming nodded. That's great. We were going to the Dragon's Cave as well. We did not expect to meet the people from the Qianjiang water region. Prince Sky Snake and the others surrendered to the Qianjiang water region. Jian Fengyan gritted his teeth and said, Brother Lu, why don't we go together? Jian Fengyan changed his tone. Sure. Lu Ming nodded. The two of them rose into the air and flew toward the Dragon's Cave. When it was close to evening, they came to a strange place. From high up in the sky, one could see a huge mountain range lying on the ground in front of them, like a true dragon. They looked like real dragons, and they could vaguely make out the dragon's head and tail. This is where the Dragon's Cave is. It is said that the real Dragon's Cave is deep in this area. The surrounding area is affected by the Dragon's Cave, and the mountain range is shaped like a dragon. There are many spiritual herbs and treasures. However, it is said that this area is usually covered by the inscription formation, and it is impossible to find or enter. I did not expect it to be open now. Jian Fengyan whispered, and his eyes were shining. Ha, that means we are lucky. Let's go. Having said that, Lu Ming's figure flashed, and he flew forward. When he flew into the Dragon Cave area, he was a little surprised. That was because he could feel that the spiritual chi of heaven and earth here was even denser. It was very strange. Even though there was only a thin line separating them, the spiritual chi of heaven and earth was completely different. Furthermore, Lu Ming could sense that the dragon-shaped true energy in his body was circulating faster than before. If he could cultivate here, Lu Ming's cultivation speed would be much faster than anywhere else. After pondering for a moment, the two of them continued forward. Soon, night fell. When the two of them were on guard against the specter, they realized that there was no specter at all. Everything was normal. Could it be that the dragon's lair is isolated from the entry of those specters? Jian Fengyan guessed. Lu Ming nodded. This was the only reason. However, this was a good thing. It saved him a lot of trouble. The two of them landed on a mountain peak and closed their eyes to meditate. Jian Fengyan had already suffered some injuries, and now he was circulating his energy to heal himself. The night passed uneventfully. The next morning, the two of them continued their journey, heading deeper into the region. Whoosh, whoosh. Suddenly, the sound of air being torn apart sounded in front of them. In front of them, a black-robed young man was flying rapidly. Behind him, dozens of figures were chasing rapidly. Xiao Haoyu, you can't escape. Be obedient and accept your death. Someone shouted from behind. Those who were with you are all dead. What's the point of living an ignoble existence like you? A cold laugh sounded. In front, the black-robed young man did not say a word and flew with all his might. It's the strongest person in the Valley Wind mountain range, Xiao Haoyu. I've met him once before. Jian Fengyan said softly. Lu Ming swept a glance and stood in the air, having no intention of interfering. Lu Ming was not a kind-hearted person. He would not bring unnecessary trouble to himself because of someone he did not know. Since Lu Ming did not move, Jian Fengyun naturally did not move either. Xiao Haoyu glanced at Lu Ming and the others before continuing to fly forward. However, just because Lu Ming and the others did not interfere did not mean that others would not look for trouble. Whoosh, whoosh. In a flash, 7 or 8 figures surrounded Lu Ming. Xiao Haoyu died. Whoosh. Among the group of people, a terrifying saber light instantly tore through the void and slashed towards Xiao Haoyu at an unbelievable speed. Xiao Haoyu roared and tried his best to resist, but he was hit until he spat out large mouthfuls of blood. In the next moment, he was also surrounded by the group of people. "Everyone, what are you doing? We don't seem to have any grudges." Jian Fengyun's expression changed slightly. "What are we doing? This is a robbery. The 2 of you hand over your storage rings. Hand over your storage rings, and I'll consider sparing your lives." Among the people surrounding them, a skinny young man who looked like a monkey sneered. "Brothers, don't listen to them. They're from the desolate wilderness area and belong to a large area. Even if you hand over your storage rings, they'll still kill you." Not far away, Xiao Haoyu shouted, "The desolate wilderness area." Jian Fengyun's expression changed when he heard that. The desolate wilderness area was the same as the Qianjiang water region. It was a large area. There were high-level empires overseeing it. "Ha, Xiao Haoyu, what's the use of shouting so loudly? Do you think they can avoid death if they don't hand over their storage rings?" An abnormally tall and sturdy young man who was about 2 to 3 meters tall and had muscles all over his body sneered. He looked like a small giant. "Scram!" Suddenly, a calm voice sounded. The voice wasn't loud, but it was filled with coldness. The voice belonged to Lu Ming. The young men from the desolate wilderness area were slightly stunned. Then someone's expression changed, and he said coldly, "Kid, what did you say?" "I told you to scram. Don't you understand human language? I'll give you 3 breaths of time. If you don't scram after 3 breaths, then don't scram." Lu Ming's voice was still unhurried, but the coldness in his voice was even more intense. "Kid, you're courting death. I'll crush all your bones now." There were 8 strong young men surrounding Lu Ming and the others. At this moment, one of them took a big step forward and threw a punch at Lu Ming. Bang! In the next instant, the strong young man was sent flying a few thousand meters away by Lu Ming's kick. How dare you fight back? Let's kill him together." The remaining 7 people roared furiously and attacked Lu Ming. Bang! Bang! Following this, 7 explosions were heard as the 7 young men were sent flying a few thousand meters away by Lu Ming's kick. They spat out mouthfuls of blood, and their bodies almost exploded. The young men surrounding Xiao Haoyu were stunned. Even the unusually tall and sturdy young man's expression turned serious. Among the 8 young men, there was a 7th-layer martial ancestor realm genius, but he was still sent flying by Lu Ming's kick. Lu Ming's strength was shocking. "I'll be merciful and spare your lives. Scram now." Lu Ming snapped. "Kid, you're pretty strong. Let me fight you. If you can defeat me, I'll leave right away." Chapter 404. Brother, be careful. He is the strongest expert of the desolated area with a cultivation of the 8th-layer martial ancestor realm. His strength has surpassed the Battle 3 geniuses. Xiao Haoyu yelled, It's too late now. Desolation, godly fist." The bulky young man let out a roar as he lashed out a punch. The punch caused the heavens and earth to tremble violently, as if a mountain range was hurtling toward Lu Ming. Furthermore, a huge mountain floated above the bulky young man's head, with 5 silver chakras shining brightly. The power of the punch was even stronger after the bloodline was unleashed. 9 dragons stomping the heavens. Lu Ming executed the 9 dragons stomping the heavens. Bang! A punch and a kick collided with one another. Following this, the crowd could see the bulky young man's fist crumbling instantly. His steel-like muscles began to tremble violently. Bang! Following this, his body was sent flying backward like a deflated balloon. He flew for 3,000 meters before coming to a stop with blood spurting out from his mouth. Run, run now! The bulky young man let out a roar and ran for his life without hesitation. The rest of the people in the desolated area were scared out of their wits, who immediately fled a few thousand meters away. At that instant, everyone in the desolated area had fled for their lives. Lu Ming did not chase after them. It was enough to teach them a lesson. Guys, thanks for saving my life. You're Jian Fengyun. At that instant, Xiao Haoyu flew over and took a closer look at Jian Fengyun. His eyes flickered as if he had recognized Jian Fengyun. Brother Xiao, it's been a few years since we last met. How are you? Jian Fengyun said with a smile. Brother Jian, it's really you. I didn't recognize you just then. May I know who this is? Xiao Haoyu glanced at Lu Ming with astonishment in his eyes. Being able to defeat the strongest expert of the desolated area with ease. His strength could easily be ranked among the geniuses that had entered the Dongming ancient battlefield. Xiao Haoyu guessed that Lu Ming was most likely a genius from a super region. This is Lu Ming, Brother Lu, a peerless genius from the Cloud Monarch mountain range. Jian Fengyun introduced Lu Ming to Xiao Haoyu with a proud tone. What, is Brother Lu a genius from the Cloud Emperor mountain range? Xiao Haoyu exclaimed in disbelief. What, if Brother Xiao doesn't believe me, then there's nothing to hide. Jian Fengyun said. Lu Ming smiled and said, I am indeed from the Cloud Emperor mountain range. I didn't expect the Cloud Emperor mountain range to have such a genius like Brother Lu. What an eye-opener! Xiao Haoyu exclaimed. Hey, Xiao Haoyu, what do you mean by that? It seems like our Cloud Emperor mountain range can't produce someone like Brother Lu? Jian Fengyun said with a glare. Brother Jian, you've misunderstood. That's not what I meant. Xiao Haoyu smiled bitterly and hurriedly said. Then he quickly changed the topic and said, Brother Lu, Brother Jian, are you going to the Dragon Cave? Not bad. Lu Ming and Wang Chong nodded. Then why don't we go together? Xiao Haoyu said. Lu Ming did not object. Since Lu Ming did not object, Jian Fengyun naturally did not object as well. Lu Ming naturally had his own thoughts. Xiao Haoyu was the strongest expert in a region. His talent and combat strength were not inferior to Jian Fengyun's. There was almost no problem for him to join the D Tian Divine Guards. In the future, Lu Ming would not know anyone in the D Tian Divine Guards. It would only be beneficial for him to get to know a few more people now. The 3 of them moved forward together. On the way, Lu Ming also found out why Xiao Haoyu was being hunted down by the people in the desolate region. The reason was that the experts from the various large regions were all hunting down the experts from the small regions, especially the strongest experts from the small regions. They all had a chance of joining the D Tian Divine Guards, and if they killed these people, the competition in the large regions would be a little smaller. Perhaps more people would be able to join the D Tian Divine Guards. It seems that the later it will be, the more chaotic it will be. Jian Fengyun sighed. Only a little more than a month had passed, and those large regions had already started hunting down the experts in the small regions. He really did not know how chaotic it would be in the later stages. This was the goal of the D. Tian Divine Palace. Only by surviving the various dangers and trials could one become a D. Tian Divine Guard. The three of them moved forward. However, their speed was not very fast. They flew at a low altitude. As they flew, they searched for spiritual herbs. The Dragon Cave region nurtured many natural treasures. However, along the way, the three of them did not gain much. They saw many pits in many places. Obviously, other people had already dug out the spiritual herbs. This region was really vast. The three of them flew for tens of thousands of miles, but they still had not reached the real location of the Dragon Cave. "Look, there are corpses over there," Jian Fengyun suddenly shouted. Lu Ming and Xiao Haoyu also saw a large number of corpses lying in a valley below. "Let's go and take a look." The three of them flew down. When they took a look, their expressions changed. In the valley, there were no less than 100 corpses. All of them were dead. The most shocking thing was that these corpses were all dried up. It was as if all the blood and essence in their bodies had been sucked away. What a strange way to die. Could it be some strange monster? Xiao Haoyu sucked in a breath of cold air and frowned. Lu Ming also frowned and pondered. It was really strange that their blood and essence had been sucked dry. For example, the 9 dragons' bloodline only devoured blood essence and bloodline power. It would not devour ordinary blood. Then, the three of them continued to move forward. However, not far away, they saw another pile of corpses. They were also dried up. "Those are people from the desolate wildlands," Xiao Haoyu exclaimed. Among these corpses, there were some who were particularly burly. Based on their clothes, it was obvious that they were from the desolate wildlands. Even the strongest person in the desolate wildlands is dead, Jian Fengyun said in a deep voice. Among the corpses, there was one who was particularly burly. Based on his clothes, it was the strongest person in the desolate wildlands that Lu Ming had chased away. "This region is too strange. How did they die?" Jian Fengyun said. Jian Fengyun and Xiao Haoyu's faces were solemn. Even the strongest person in the desolate wildlands died here. It was too terrifying. "Let's leave this place," Lu Ming said. Jian Fengyun and Xiao Haoyu nodded. Immediately, the three of them soared into the sky and left this place. However, a few hundred miles away, they saw dozens of corpses. They had died in the same way as before. "I have a feeling that something big will happen in this trip to the Dragon's Cave," Xiao Haoyu said in a deep voice. Then there was a moment of silence. Soon, the three of them traveled another 10,000 miles. "There are so many people there. What are they doing?" Suddenly, Jian Fengyun said. Not far away on the right, there was a huge cliff. There were many people gathered at the bottom of the cliff. "Let's go and take a look," Lu Ming said. The three of them flew over. What a powerful sword intent. Chapter 405. Swoosh. The three of them landed at the bottom of the cliff. There were already more than 20 people gathered at the bottom of the cliff. These people were in different positions and kept a distance from each other. Some of them were sitting cross-legged as if they were comprehending something. Some of them were looking at the sword mark on the cliff seriously. At this point, they could see more clearly. On the huge cliff, there was a slanted sword mark that was more than 100 meters long. It was deeply engraved on the cliff and was filled with an ancient aura. No one knew how long it had been passed down. An incomparably profound sword intent permeated the air. Lu Ming stared at the sword mark carefully. Suddenly, the sword mark enlarged rapidly in Lu Ming's eyes. In the end, the entire world changed. The world turned into a battlefield, and shouts of killing filled the sky. Suddenly, a sword light slashed from afar. It was vast and boundless. It was impossible to describe the magnificence of this sword. When the sword light came out, the sky cracked. The sword light was getting closer and closer to Lu Ming. It contained a peerless killing intent. Ah! Lu Ming roared and retreated quickly. The environment changed. Lu Ming found that he was still at the bottom of the cliff. He took 3 steps back and left 3 footprints on the ground. Phew! Lu Ming let out a long breath. The sword strike just now was really like facing the Grim Reaper. Around him, some people glanced at him and then turned their heads away. They did not find it strange. "Brother Lu, are you all right?" Jian Fengyun looked at Lu Ming. "I'm fine." Lu Ming shook his head. "Brother Lu is really a peerless talent. You can actually stay in the sword intent for half an hour. When you woke up, you only took 3 steps back. I only lasted for 10 minutes. When I woke up, I almost vomited blood." "Xiao, how you laughed. It's a pity that Brother Lu doesn't cultivate the sword. Otherwise, you would definitely become a peerless swordsman." Jian Fengyun said. "Half an hour?" Lu Ming was surprised. Just now, he only felt that a while had passed. He did not expect half an hour to have passed. "Brother Lu, Brother Xiao, and I plan to stay here and comprehend the sword intent here. I'm afraid we can't go to the Dragon's Cave with Brother Lu." Jian Fengyun looked at Lu Ming apologetically. "It doesn't matter. This sword was probably left behind by a peerless swordsman. For a sword cultivator, it is a supreme opportunity. If I were a sword cultivator, I would probably leave it behind to cultivate too." Lu Ming smiled. They were all martial artists, so he could understand what Jian Fengyun and the others were thinking. This sword mark was too tempting for sword cultivators. If they could comprehend a trace of it, they would benefit immensely. Compared to the Dragon's Cave, this place was more practical for them. To Lu Ming, it was better for Jian Fengyun and the rest to stay here. Lu Ming would be able to unleash his full potential if he ventured into the Dragon Cave alone. "I hope Brother Lu will be able to reap great rewards in the Dragon Cave." Jian Fengyun and Xiao Haoyu cupped their fists together. "See you again." Lu Ming cupped his fists and turned into a beam of light, shooting up into the sky and disappearing. Following this, Lu Ming no longer slowed down to search for spirit herbs. Instead, he sped up. Along the way, Lu Ming saw a few fights, but he ignored them and flashed past. That is, half a day later, an incomparably majestic mountain range appeared in front of him. This mountain range was at least a few thousand miles long. It twisted and turned on the ground. Lu Ming could barely see the outline of this mountain range from a few hundred miles high in the sky. Looking from afar, this mountain range really looked like a true dragon. 5 dragon claws, scales formed from various rocks, and 2 dragon horns on the dragon's head. Its shape was exactly the same as the legendary true dragon. This is the legendary Dragon Mountain. I've arrived at the Dragon Cave. Lu Ming's eyes lit up, and he quickly headed towards the Dragon Mountain's dragon head. When he got closer, he realized that this mountain range was really too majestic. The highest parts reached the clouds. When Lu Ming arrived at the dragon's head, he realized that many people were already there. At a glance, there were no less than 2,000 people. More than 2,000 people were scattered around a lake. This lake was very wide. Above the lake was the Dragon Mountain's dragon head. The dragon head was open, revealing a dark cave. At this moment, something strange was happening. The water in the lake flowed from the bottom to the top, forming a water column that continuously flew into the dragon's mouth. It looked like the true dragon was sucking in water. This was the dragon sucking water phenomenon. Legend had it that the true dragon cave was under this lake. As long as the lake water was sucked dry, The true dragon cave would be revealed. Thousands of people were waiting on the four sides of the lake. Lu Ming landed and blended into the crowd. Brother Fong, why are there only a few of you left in the flowing water bay region? Someone was chatting at the side. Sigh, the others are all dead, hunted down by the people of the larger regions. What about you? Why aren't there many people left? Don't mention it. We also encountered a large region that attacked indiscriminately. The strongest people in our region were killed. On the other hand, the weaker ones escaped. However, the people of the larger region behind us also died. I saw their corpses drained of blood. It was extremely terrifying. What? You also saw the corpses drained of blood? We saw it too. Lu Ming's expression changed. It seemed that the draining of blood did not only happen in the region he passed by, but also in other regions. As time passed, more and more people gathered here. Half a day later, there were no less than 3,000 people here, and the water on the lake had also decreased by a portion. Whoosh, whoosh. At this moment, the sound of something breaking through the air could be heard. Dozens of young men and women stepped on the air and arrived. These dozens of people had an extremely terrifying aura on their bodies, and they had a common characteristic. The men were very handsome, and the women were beautiful and charming. The people from the Lake Phoenix region are here. Someone exclaimed, "It's over." I didn't expect that even the geniuses from the Lake Phoenix region would come. Will we still have a share in the Dragon Cave? Someone sighed. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. He had naturally heard of the Lake Phoenix region. It was a region stronger than large regions like the Qianjiang Water region, and was known as a super region. In a normal, large region, there would only be one high-level empire overseeing it, and in a super region, there would be at least two high-level empires, or even 3 or 4. They were incomparably powerful and filled with geniuses. It was said that the Lake Phoenix region had 3 high-level empires, mid-level empires, and low-level empires. There were more than 1,000 empires, and it was many times stronger than the Cloud Emperor mountain range. Look, the one wearing the Phoenix robe is the strongest person in the Lake Phoenix region, the number 1 genius, Huang Qixuan. It is said that he is a 4-battle genius, and his cultivation has reached the peak of the 8th level of the martial ancestor realm. What? A 4-battle genius? The peak of the 8th level of the martial ancestor realm is so terrifying. Of course, he is the strongest person in the super region. He is a peerless genius. Lu Ming also looked over. Indeed, among the people of the Lake Phoenix region, he saw a handsome young man wearing a phoenix robe. He was 22 or 23 years old, and his face was like jade. He was Huang Qixuan. However, his gaze was incomparably cold and arrogant. Chapter 406. Swoosh, swoosh. At this moment, the sound of something breaking through the air could be heard from afar, attracting everyone's attention. Those are the geniuses from the Scarlet Flame Mountain Range. Even the people from the Scarlet Flame Mountain Range are here. Another super region. We won't get a share of this. And the strongest person from the Scarlet Flame Mountain Range, Bufifan, is here too. The arrival of this group of people caused another round of exclamations. Even the geniuses from the Lake Phoenix region frowned. Ha ha, Huang Qixuan, I didn't expect you to be here too. The geniuses from the Scarlet Flame Mountain Range stopped on the other side of the lake, distancing themselves from the people from the Lake Phoenix region. Among them, a young man with fiery red hair laughed. Bufifan, since you can come, I can naturally come too. Huang Qixuan sneered. Ha, it's so lively, count us in. With a loud laugh, more than 10 streaks of rainbow light flew over from the sky. The rainbow light dissipated, revealing more than 10 young figures. They stopped on the other side of the lake. It's the people from the Yangchuan Valley region. Super region, Yangchuan Valley. Some people were already in despair. The super regions had arrived one after another, and the strongest of them were among them. The arrival of the Yangchuan Valley region caused Bufifan, Huang Qishan, and the others' faces to darken. The dragon, head of the Dragon Mountain, was in the north of the lake. The three super regions stopped on the east, south, and west side of the lake. Obviously, they were wary of each other. Following that, more and more people arrived, but none of them attracted the attention of the three super regions. Half an hour later, a young man in a gray robe and holding a long sword silently appeared in the air above the lake. This young man had an ordinary appearance and was wearing a gray robe that looked very old. He just stood quietly in the air. However, Huang Qishan, Bufifan, and the strongest person in the Yangchuan Valley region, Sun Chu, all changed their expressions when they saw this person. Ancient Desolation City Xianfeng, Huang Qishan, said solemnly. As soon as these words were spoken, it caused an uproar. What? Ancient Desolation City? Is this person from the Ancient Desolation City? It's said that the Ancient Desolation City is extremely mysterious. Very few people come out, but once they come out, they are peerless monsters. If this person is from the Ancient Desolation City, that's terrifying. Looks like the Dragon Cave is very attractive to these peerless monsters. There's going to be a good show this time. Everyone was discussing, but Xianfeng was still hugging his battle sword. He didn't say a word, and his expression didn't even change. Huang Qishan and the others glanced at Xianfeng with some fear, not saying a word. Following that, the number of people increased, and soon it broke through the 4,000 mark. As far as the eye could see, the small lake was densely packed with people. Huang Qishan glanced around and revealed a look of disgust. He said coldly, "A bunch of trash actually wants to get a share of the treasures in the Dragon Cave. They are really indulging in fantasy and overestimating themselves." Many people's expressions changed, but they were afraid of Lake Phoenix and Huang Qishuan's strength, so no one dared to make a sound. "Humph, what a bunch of trash." Huang Qishan harumphed coldly, then turned to Bufifan and Sun Chu. "Bufifan, Sun Chu, how about this before entering the Dragon Cave? Let's clear away these obstructing trash. What do you think?" "All right, that's what I was thinking." Bufifan and Sun Chu both nodded, but the others' faces changed drastically. The people from the bigger regions can stay, fly to the sky. As for the trash from the smaller regions, scram quickly, don't be a hindrance here. Huang Qishuan's gaze was like lightning, sweeping over the surroundings as he reprimanded loudly. Hearing this, the experts from the bigger regions breathed out in relief and flew to the sky, increasing the distance between them and the people from the smaller regions. The remaining people were from the smaller regions. The people from the smaller regions had ugly expressions, looking at each other, but no one wanted to leave. Who would be willing to leave so easily? "Looks like you guys aren't going to scram, right?" Huang Qishuan's gaze turned cold. "Huang Qishan, you guys are too overbearing. The Dragon Cave is an ownerless land. Anyone can come here to obtain a piece of fortune. Why should it be monopolized by you guys? I refuse to accept this. There are so many of us. We are not afraid of you." "That's right." Someone shouted loudly. "Oh, looks like you guys aren't going to scram." Huang Qishan sneered, then looked at Bufifan and Sun Chu, saying, "You two, you and I will each occupy a direction. How about this? Each of us will clear a direction. Let's see which side cleans faster. What do you think?" "Good, this is interesting." "That's exactly what I want." Bufifan and Sun Chu laughed. "Then let's begin." Whoosh! As soon as Huang Qishuan's voice fell, his figure flashed out like a lightning bolt. A mournful scream was heard. The crowd saw a young man's heart being pierced by Huang Qishuan's claw. The young man let out a desperate roar and finally stopped breathing. Trash, you talk too much. Die. Huang Qixuan sneered. Whoever doesn't scram, the next moment you will die. A cold voice came out from Huang Qixuan's mouth. Damn it, this is too much. We are not afraid of them if we join forces. A tall young man roared, his body emitting a powerful aura, the peak of the seventh martial ancestor realm. This was a genius who was not weaker than Jian Fengyun, most likely the strongest in a small region. Then let's die together. Huang Qixuan sneered, his figure rushing towards the young man. Kill! The young man roared, slashing out a shocking saber light. But the next moment, Puchi, Huang Qixuan's claw, seemed to be able to pierce through everything. The saber light shattered. Then, like the previous person, his heart was pierced by the claw. The strongest in a small region, dead. A piece of trash dares to shout, "You are courting death." Huang Qixuan's claw flickered with a red light. Not a single drop of blood was stained on it. The others were terrified. Too strong. They were no match for him. The strongest in a small region was killed in one move. The difference was too great. If you don't retreat in 3 breaths, kill without mercy. Huang Qixuan's eyes were cold as he scanned the surroundings. Whoosh, whoosh. The figures of the experts from Lake Phoenix flashed, bursting with powerful auras. Let's go, let's go. Finally, someone roared and retreated unwillingly. Let's go too. Helpless, the people in the small region retreated one after another. It was the same in the other 2 regions. After a few experts were killed, they also retreated helplessly. After a few breaths, only the people in the large region were left. Of course, Xian Feng hugged his long sword and did not move. Huang Qixuan and the others naturally would not touch him. In an instant, the people in the small region had all left. No, there was only one person left, and that was Lu Ming. Lu Ming was originally on the east side of the small lake, which was the responsibility of Lake Phoenix. At this moment, he stood there alone, appearing very conspicuous. Chapter 407. Ha ha. Huang Qixuan, you still have people on your side. Looks like you've lost. Bufifan laughed. Looks like Lake Phoenix's deterrence is just SOSO. Sun Chu sighed. Huang Qixuan's face turned gloomy as he looked at Lu Ming with eyes filled with murderous intent. Kid, I told you to get lost. Didn't you hear me? Huang Qixuan said eerily. Lu Ming glanced at Huang Qixuan and smiled faintly. I told you to get lost. Are you going to get lost? You told me to get lost? Kid, are you crazy? Do you have the right to do so? Huang Qixuan sneered. That's it. You told me to get lost? Who do you think you are? Do you have the right to do so? Lu Ming smiled faintly. Ha ha ha. Bufifan laughed wildly and said, Huang Qixuan, looks like Lake Phoenix's deterrence isn't that great? Or is it that your deterrence isn't that great? Bufifan's words made Huang Qixuan grit his teeth in anger. However, he had no confidence in dealing with Bufifan. He could only turn his anger into murderous intent towards Lu Ming. Kid, even if you kneel down and beg me now, you can't get lost. You will pay for your words and actions. I will make you wish you were dead, Huang Qixuan said eerily. Nonsense, don't talk nonsense. If you want to fight, hurry up, Lu Ming scolded. Bufifan, Sun Chu, and the other geniuses were stunned. Where did this hothead come from? How dare he talk to Huang Qixuan like that? This was simply courting death. Good, 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 very good. Huang Qixuan said the word good 3 times in a row. His voice was incomparably eerie as a terrifying aura rose from his body. Senior brother Huang, there's no need for you to deal with trash like him. Let me deal with him. It's more than enough. At this moment, a young man with triangular eyes walked out from the Lake Phoenix area and shouted, This guy is seizing the opportunity to flatter senior brother Huang again. Someone whispered in the Lake Phoenix area. When the voice reached the triangular-eyed young man's ears, he chuckled and didn't care at all. There's no need. I'll do it myself. I'll make him regret every word he said just now. Huang Qixuan waved his hand, allowing the triangular-eyed youth to retreat. The triangular-eyed youth sighed, helplessly. What a waste of this opportunity. Brat, you've got a sharp tongue. I'd like to see what you've got. Whoosh! As soon as his voice fell, Huang Qixuan's figure moved like lightning. It was inconceivably fast. In an instant, he appeared in front of Lu Ming and clawed at Lu Ming. But even though he was fast, Lu Ming was not slow either. The moment Huang Qixuan moved, the demon-banishing spear appeared in his hand and stabbed towards Huang Qixuan's palm. You want to stop me? Break! Huang Qixuan coldly shouted, and a sharp claw light erupted from his claws as he clawed at Lu Ming. Boom! The long spear and the claw collided, creating a violent boom. A shocking shockwave swept out. Lu Ming and Huang Qixuan both retreated at the same time. They both retreated 100 meters and stood in the void. What? That brat can actually block Huang Qixuan's move. Looks like they're evenly matched. How is that possible? Could it be that this brat can fight with Huang Qixuan? Impossible. This brat's battle strength might be good, but it's impossible for him to fight with Huang Qixuan. If I'm not wrong, Huang Qixuan didn't use much strength, but that brat probably used 80 to 90% of his strength. Yes, it should be so. The geniuses of the major regions were discussing. Brat, so you do have some strength. No wonder you're so arrogant. But if you think that you can fight with me, then you're gravely mistaken. I'll let you know how terrifying my true strength is, Huang Qixuan coldly said. His arms moved slightly, and a pair of spiritual weapon gloves appeared on his hands. At the same time, a powerful aura rushed out. A large fiery red bird condensed on top of Huang Qixuan's head. This large bird was fiery red, and there were red flames burning on it, especially its tail. It was like the tail of the legendary phoenix. The phoenix-tailed bird was said to have the bloodline of the phoenix. It was extremely powerful. On the body of the phoenix-tailed bird, there were 6 silver chakras shining with incomparably bright light. 6th grade king class bloodline. The eruption of his bloodline caused Huang Qixuan's aura to reach its peak. Flying phoenix claw, Huang Qixuan's figure moved, and his claw struck out. Chi-chi, as if the claw of a real phoenix claw passed through the air. A crack appeared in the space, as if it was about to be torn apart. This claw also contained the complete power of fire. It was several times stronger than before. Boom! Lu Ming also erupted with his second bloodline. At the same time, he stabbed out with his spear. The power of wind and fire fused together, forming a thick spear light. Boom! There was a shocking explosion. This time, the two retreated again. This move was evenly matched. How is that possible? Die for me! Huang Qixuan roared and clawed out continuously. The space was about to explode. It was extremely terrifying. Every claw caused the space to tremble violently. Lu Ming held his spear and clashed with Huang Qixuan without fear. Boom! Boom! The energy swept through the world, causing the wind and clouds to surge. Shwa! A claw light was dodged by Lu Ming. He flew out a few thousand meters and grabbed onto a mountain. With a loud explosion, the mountain exploded, turning into gravel. It was terrifying. Xiao! A spear light flew out and directly pierced a 10-meter wide, unfathomably deep hole in the ground. Retreat! The spectators were shocked and quickly retreated, fearing that they would be affected. Boom, boom. The two exchanged more than 10 moves. It was difficult to determine the winner. Phoenix wings slash. At this time, Huang Qixuan roared, and his true qi surged. His arms shook, and a bird cry sounded. A pair of phoenix wings vaguely condensed on Huang Qixuan's arms. Whoosh! Huang Qixuan waved his hand, and the phoenix wings slashed down on Lu Ming like a heavenly blade. The power of this attack was much stronger than when he used the flying phoenix claw. Die! Huang Qixuan sneered. Let's see who will die. 9 dragons stomping the heavens. Lu Ming stepped out, and a dragon roar sounded. Suddenly, dragon roars and phoenix cries filled the world. It was as if they had returned to the ancient era of divine beasts. Boom! Phoenix wing slash, and 9 dragons stomping the heavens heavily clashed. The space started to tremble intensely like a piece of cloth. Berserk energy shot out in all directions. Those who were watching the battle frantically retreated. Only 3 people stood motionless in the air. They were Bufifan, Sun Chu, and Xianfeng. The 3 of them emitted powerful auras to resist the energy that shot out in all directions. After a loud explosion, Lu Ming and Huang Qixuan flew back again. It was a tie again. One had to admit that Huang Qixuan was indeed incomparably powerful. He was at the peak of the 8th level of the martial ancestor realm and was a 4-battle genius. His battle strength was enough to kill an ordinary half-step king. Lu Ming was at the early 8th level of the martial ancestor realm and could only fight to a draw. Lu Ming estimated that even if he used the heaven palm, he might not be able to defeat Huang Qixuan. Chapter 408. Who the hell are you? Huang Qixuan roared. Lu Ming was only surprised, but Huang Qixuan's heart was in turmoil. It was too shocking. Lu Ming was actually able to fight him to a draw. He even suspected that Lu Ming was also the strongest in a super region. Not only Huang Qixuan, the spectators were also dumbfounded. They originally thought that Lu Ming was definitely not Huang Qixuan's opponent. They thought that Lu Ming was overestimating his own strength and was courting death. However, the truth was like a slap to their faces. Lu Ming was not only strong, he was not weaker than Huang Qixuan. He was a genius on the same level as Huang Qixuan. Their jaws almost dropped from shock. Bufifan, Sun Chu, and even the expressionless Xianfeng looked at Lu Ming with a grave expression. Obviously, Lu Ming's strength had attracted their attention, especially the triangular-eyed youth from the Phoenix Lake region. He was sweating profusely, and his body was trembling from fear. Just now, he wanted to deal with Lu Ming. If he really attacked, he wouldn't even know how he died. When he thought of this, he felt a burst of fear. Who am I? You don't have the qualifications to know. Lu Ming sneered, pretending to be mysterious. Watch how I kill you. Huang Qixuan roared and waved his arms. The phoenix spread its wings and brought about a gust of wind. A blazing aura filled the world. Rumble! At this moment, a loud rumbling sound came from the lake. The dragon's mouth seemed to have a sudden increase in suction force. The lake water in the lake crazily poured into the dragon's mouth. There was not much water in the lake to begin with. At this moment, it quickly reached the bottom. Ah, look, the bottom of the lake is actually empty. Someone exclaimed. It's really empty. Strange, the bottom of the lake is empty. Why is there water? Strange, too strange. Dragon's Cave, this is the Dragon's Cave, the resting place of a true dragon. Some people who were close to the lake exclaimed. Now, consider yourself lucky. I will spare your life today. Huang Qixuan's eyes flashed as he stared coldly at Lu Ming. Spare my life? Aren't you afraid of biting your tongue when you talk big? It's still not certain who will kill who. Lu Ming smiled contemptuously. Huang Qishuan's face turned gloomy. He really wanted to have a big fight with Lu Ming, but he was afraid of missing the dragon cave. In the end, he snorted coldly and said, "Brat, we'll see." After saying that, he led the people from Lake Phoenix and flew towards the surface of the lake. Lu Ming smiled faintly and flew towards the lake. His thoughts were similar to Huang Qishuan's. If the two of them fought a life and death battle, it would be difficult to determine the victor in a short period of time. If that happened, they would miss the opportunity to enter the dragon's cave. Flying closer to take a look, Lu Ming was secretly amazed. At this time, the water in the lake became less and less, revealing a huge pitch-black cave below. That's right, this lake wasn't a lake at all. It was the entrance of a huge cave. The lake water from before was actually just floating at the entrance of the cave, making it look like a lake. After the lake water was sucked dry, the true appearance of the cave was revealed. In just a dozen breaths of time, all the water in the lake was sucked dry. The huge cave was completely exposed. The diameter of the cave was at least a few thousand meters wide. Below, it was pitch black. With everyone's eyesight, they could only see 1,000 or 2,000 meters. Below that, they couldn't see clearly. They didn't know how deep the cave was. It seemed like it led to the abyss of hell. Charge! Someone moved, flying towards the cave. It was safe and sound, without any abnormalities. With someone taking the lead, the others naturally rushed in like a swarm of bees. There were more than 100 people from the 3 super regions. However, these people were all terrifying geniuses. The weaker ones probably didn't follow. Otherwise, it would be impossible for a super region to have so few people. Even the Cloud Emperor mountain range had 98 people. The ones with the most people were those from the larger regions. There were no less than 500 people. More than 600 people flew towards the huge cave together. Lu Ming didn't hesitate and rushed down with the crowd. The cave was too big. They flew down for at least 10,000 meters. At this time, the cave became slanted instead of vertical. Boom, boom. Suddenly, a big battle broke out on one side of the cave. Get lost. The dragon grass is mine. Who said it's yours? I found it first. Clang, clang. The sound of metal clashing was heard. The next moment, a scream was heard. One person was killed. Lu Ming's sharp eyes saw a young man plucking a green spiritual grass from the wall of the cave. Dragon grass. It's really the dragon grass. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Legend has it that the dragon grass was a kind of spiritual grass that grew from the saliva of a true dragon after a long time. It had the aura of a true dragon and was extremely precious. It seemed that a true dragon really lived here a long time ago. There's one here too, someone exclaimed. It's mine. You're courting death. You want to get the dragon grass. A big battle broke out, and the killing began. Suddenly, screams were heard. Huang Qishuan's figure flashed, and 5 or 6 young experts had their hearts crushed by him. A bunch of trash want to get the dragon grass. Die, Huang Qishan said coldly. Go, take all the dragon grass you see. Huang Qishan ordered the experts of Lake Phoenix. Yes, instantly, the dozens of experts of Lake Phoenix scattered and flew to different parts of the cave. Not only Lake Phoenix, but the people of Yangchuan Valley and Scarlet Flame Mountain Range did the same. Damn it! Some of the experts of the bigger regions roared. Before entering the dragon cave, Huang Qishan and the others had allowed the people of the bigger regions to enter because they were afraid that they would join forces. After all, each of the bigger regions had geniuses of martial ancestor realm and above. Once they joined forces, they would be a terrifying force. But now that they had entered the dragon cave, everyone wanted to search for treasures and did their own thing. How could they join forces? Huang Qixuan and the others were naturally unrestrained. In the cave, fights for treasures and screams could be heard from time to time. 2 stalks of dragon grass. Lu Ming saw 2 stalks of green spirit grass on the wall of a cave. It was the dragon grass. His figure flashed, and he rushed over. The others saw it, but did not dare to snatch it from him. Lu Ming waved his hand and kept the 2 stalks of dragon grass. He continued to fly along the wall of the cave. Die. In front, a genius of Lake Phoenix killed a youth with a sword and was about to pluck a stalk of dragon grass from the wall. Whoosh! Lu Ming directly rushed over, and with a sweep of his true qi, he plucked the dragon grass and kept it. The youth of Lake Phoenix shouted angrily, but when he saw that it was Lu Ming, he immediately swallowed the rest of his words. He retreated unwillingly. More than 10 minutes later, the group flew for tens of thousands of meters. Suddenly, 3 caves appeared in front of them. The caves were forked. Whoosh! Whoosh! The group randomly chose a cave and flew in. There were more than 100 people in each cave. Along the way, at least 100 people were killed. More than 600 people were reduced to 500 people. Lu Ming chose a cave on the left and flew along the wall. Wait, is that a dragon blood flower? Chapter 4:09. In the pit, there were bright red flowers. These flowers were in the shape of a dragon, like a small dragon soaring in the sky. It was very lifelike. These were dragon blood flowers. According to legend, they could only grow from the blood of a true dragon. They were much more precious than dragon saliva grass. Lu Ming was overjoyed. With these dragon blood flowers, Lu Ming's true dragon battle art would probably be able to advance to the next level. Qi. Suddenly, an extremely sharp energy slashed towards Lu Ming. It was Huang Qixuan. At this moment, his eyes were cold as he slashed towards Lu Ming with his phoenix wings. 9 dragons trampling the sky. Lu Ming did not hesitate and stepped forward. Bang! Huang Qixuan's body flew out, and Lu Ming crashed into the wall. Whoosh! Whoosh! Lu Ming moved his hands and plucked more than 10 dragon blood flowers and kept them in the Temple of Paragon. Humph! Seeing Lu Ming keep the dragon blood flowers, Huang Qixuan snorted coldly and turned to leave. Lu Ming's eyes flashed coldly, and a trace of killing intent appeared at the corner of his mouth. Next, he continued to advance in the cave. This cave was very wide, and was definitely a place where true dragons entered and exited. Suddenly, there was a commotion in front of him. There is a bone here. Is this a dragon bone? Haha, it's mine. You're courting death. Suddenly, there was a roar and shouts. Dragon bone. Lu Ming's heart jumped, and he quickly flew in that direction. If it was really a dragon bone, its value would be terrifying. It was much more valuable than dragon saliva grass and dragon blood flowers. Phoenix Lake, Huang Qixuan, you're despicable. Ah. Before Lu Ming arrived, he heard angry roars and screams. Lu Ming turned into a flash of lightning and crossed a few miles in an instant. In front of him, there was a bone the size of a water tank embedded in the stone wall. The bone was crystal clear like jade and was filled with a sacred aura. It emitted a terrifying energy fluctuation. Huang Qixuan brought 5 or 6 experts from the Phoenix Lake and killed more than 10 youths from other regions. Haha, the dragon bone is mine. Huang Qixuan laughed. He reached out to grab the dragon bone and tried to pull it out, but the dragon bone didn't budge. So tight. Again, Huang Qixuan was about to use his full strength to pull out the dragon bone. Boom! Lu Ming arrived and instinctively kicked out. 9 dragons, heaven stomping steps. Damn it! Huang Qixuan was shocked. He quickly abandoned the dragon bone and used Phoenix Wing Slash. The other youths from Lake Phoenix also used their ultimate moves to block Lu Ming's attacks. Boom! Huang Qixuan's body swayed, slightly. As for the other experts of Lake Phoenix, their faces paled, and they almost spat out blood. However, Lu Ming's body also retreated rapidly. Apart from Huang Qixuan, the other 6 from Lake Phoenix were all 8th-layer martial ancestor realm cultivators. Furthermore, they were all Battle 3 geniuses. Together, they were extremely powerful. Brat, it's you again. The dragon bone is mine. You want to fight over it? You are courting death. Huang Qixuan roared. Yours? This is the dragon's cave. When did it become yours? Lu Ming sneered. Fine. Since you are courting death, I will fulfill your wish. Let's attack together and kill him. Huang Qixuan roared. Then, the Phoenix Wing Slash was used. The other 6 experts from Lake Phoenix also used their ultimate moves to attack Lu Ming. Heaven's Path Palm. Lu Ming struck out with his palm. A giant palm print formed and smashed towards the group from Lake Phoenix. Boom! A loud explosion shook the dragon's cave, and energy overflowed. However, the surroundings of the dragon's cave were extremely hard. Even with their energy that could destroy a mountain, they could only knock down some rocks. Pung! The Heaven's Path palm print was pierced. Huang Qixuan and the others only swayed slightly before they continued to attack Lu Ming. Brat, you will die today. Huang Qixuan's eyes were cold. You want to bully me with your numbers? Do you think I am afraid of you? Dandan, egg, smash for me. Lu Ming lightly patted the stone egg hanging on his hair. Dandan, this was a name that Lu Ming casually gave to the stone egg. Immediately, the stone egg shook slightly and turned into the size of a human head. With a swoosh, it rushed towards one of the experts from Lake Phoenix. Break for me. The expert from Lake Phoenix clawed out, the claw light shocking the sky. But in the next moment, he was stunned. Dandan completely ignored the claw light and rushed past. Then, it bounced up and smashed towards the nose of the expert from Lake Phoenix. Pung! Kacha! This time, the sound of bones breaking could be heard. Then, it was followed by a mournful scream. Lu Ming realized that it was really miserable. His nose had completely caved in. His bones were broken, and his flesh was badly mangled. Even his mother would not be able to recognize him. Shwa! Dandan flew back and jumped up and down in front of Lu Ming. It seemed to be very excited. Huang Qixuan and the others were dumbfounded. Damn it, what did you use? You actually sneak attacked. Despicable. Huang Qixuan roared. Despicable? Huang Qixuan, you scum actually dared to talk to me about despicable? You are not worthy. Lu Ming coldly shouted. Damn it, kill. Huang Qixuan roared. Dandan smash. Lu Ming said. Dandan was so excited that she jumped up and spun around. Then, she flew forward with a swoosh. Block it, smash it. Huang Qixuan roared and released his strongest attack. The others did the same. But it was useless. Dandan completely ignored these attacks and rushed past. Pung! Another young man from Lake Phoenix was smashed in the face. Instantly, the sound of bones breaking and a mournful scream could be heard. This young man also followed in the footsteps of the previous one. His nose, and mouth were all caved in. His face was completely unrecognizable. It was a tragic sight. Although he didn't die, he couldn't even use much of his strength. Hiss, hiss, the remaining young men from Lake Phoenix sucked in a breath of cold air. Looking at the miserable state of the 2 young men, their teeth chattered and their backs turned cold. Who's next? Lu Ming's gaze scanned the area. Damn it, this stone egg isn't afraid of energy attacks. Use weapons. Huang Qixuan roared. Is that so? Then it's you, Huang Qixuan. Lu Ming pointed at Huang Qixuan. Shua, Dandan directly flew out. Scram for me. Huang Qixuan wore a pair of spirit weapon gloves and clawed at Dandan. Just as he was about to grab Dandan, Dandan jumped up and changed direction, smashing towards Huang Qixuan. Ah! Huang Qixuan roared and quickly retreated. His hands desperately protected his face, but he was still a step too late. Pung! It accurately smashed into his face. A miserable scream, followed by an angry roar, rang out. Huang Qixuan waved his claws. The moment Dandan smashed into him, he also smashed into Dandan's body. Pung! Dandan was sent flying. Midway, it changed direction and flew back to Lu Ming's side. It bounced back and forth, seemingly unhappy. Lu Ming looked at Huang Qixuan. Although Huang Qixuan was smashed, he wasn't as miserable as the others. But he still didn't feel good. His nose was completely crooked, and several of his teeth were missing. Blood flowed out. He was in a sorry state. Huang Qixuan roared again and again. Some passers-by were dumbfounded. Chapter 4:10. What are you shouting for? Continue, Heaven's Palm. Lu Ming blasted out a palm. Heaven's Palm imprint blasted forward. At the same time, Dandan followed the Heaven's Palm imprint and rushed forward. Huang Qixuan and the others' faces turned green. On one hand, they had to block the Heaven's Palm imprint, and on the other hand, they had to guard against Dandan. How could they fight? You guys block the palm imprint. Huang Qixuan shouted. He did not dare to be distracted. Otherwise, he would be smashed by Dandan. Boom! The other experts of Phoenix Lake worked together to block the palm imprint, while Huang Qixuan stared at Dandan. The palm force rumbled. Without Huang Qixuan, the experts of Phoenix Lake could not block Lu Ming's palm force. Each of them trembled and coughed out blood. At the same time, Dandan also rushed in and smashed towards Huang Qixuan. This time, Huang Qixuan was even more miserable. Although he tried his best to block, he was still smashed heavily. This time, his teeth were smashed away. His mouth was crooked, and his nose caved in. His originally handsome face turned into a pile of dog shit. Live! Huang Qixuan roared, but because his mouth was leaking air, he originally wanted to say, but in the end he said, live. Swish! Dandan flew back and jumped up and down on Lu Ming's shoulder. Lu Ming felt that this guy was very excited. Gather, go. Quickly gather, go. Huang Qixuan roared with his mouth leaking air. Right now, he could no longer care about the dragon bone. If he stayed, he was afraid that he would be smashed to death by the stone egg. With a roar, he led the people of Phoenix Lake and ran away. However, the sullen feeling in his heart, he did not want to mention it. Ha! Take care. I won't send you off. Lu Ming laughed. Huang Qixuan and the others almost vomited blood. In the distance, when the others saw this scene, they felt their eyelids twitching nonstop. They secretly warned themselves not to provoke Lu Ming, this ruthless person. Lu Ming came to the stone wall and sized up the dragon bone. The dragon bone was snow white like jade, sparkling and translucent. One side was embedded in the stone wall, while the other side was exposed outside. What was exposed was about the thickness of a water tank and 1 meter long. He could clearly feel the surging essence chi in his bones. Perhaps these really are dragon bones. Otherwise, who knows how many years have passed, but they still contain so much essence energy. Lu Ming's eyes sparkled. With this dragon bone, his true dragon battle art might be able to take a few steps forward. Then Lu Ming grabbed the dragon bone with both hands and pulled it out with all his might. Kacha! Creaking sounds came from the stone wall, but it was not pulled out. Again, Lu Ming let out a low growl as the muscles all over his body bulged. He unleashed his physical strength to the maximum. At the same time, the true dragon battle art was fully unleashed. Lu Ming stepped on the wall, grabbed the dragon bone with both hands, and pulled with all his might. Bang! Bang! The stone wall beneath Lu Ming's feet exploded. However, the dragon bone also loosened and was slowly pulled out. Finally, with a bang, the entire dragon bone was pulled out. It was a 3-meter-long bone that was as thick as a water tank. However, the deeper it went, the thinner it became. This looks like a phalanx. Lu Ming looked at it curiously. It looked like a phalanx of a true dragon. Great harvest! What a great harvest! Lu Ming grinned as he kept the phalanx in the Temple of Paragon. Not far away, the others looked on enviously, but no one dared to fight for it. What a joke! Didn't they see how badly the genius from Lake Phoenix was beaten up? After keeping the dragon bone, Lu Ming continued to move forward. Along the way, they did not encounter any precious treasures. After about a dozen miles, they saw a light ahead. That's a huge underground cave. It's the resting place of a true dragon. Go, go. Suddenly, everyone's hearts burned with passion as they rushed toward the light. Whoosh! Lu Ming rushed out of the cave and appeared in an extremely wide underground cave. This underground cave was too wide. It was more than a dozen miles wide and a few thousand meters tall. The walls of the cave were inlaid with night stones that lit up the cave. Whoosh! Whoosh! Air-rending sounds could be heard. At this moment, Lu Ming then noticed that there were 2 huge holes in the surrounding walls. One by one, figures flew in. They were Bu Fifan from the Scarlet Flame Mountain region and Sun Chu from the Yangchuan Valley region. Previously, there were 3 forks, and they had entered the other 2 forks. It turned out that this was the final destination. This is the resting place of a true dragon. There must be a supreme treasure here. Hey, there's a jade bed over there. It's so big. After a while, most of them flew toward the center of the underground cave. There was a huge jade bed over there. It was about 100 meters long and wide. It was extremely shocking. Go away, you ants! Boom! Bu Fifan's body emitted a terrifying aura as he slashed out with his saber. A huge, flaming saber radiance swept across and killed a dozen youths instantly. Quick! Avoid the people from the super regions. The people from the super regions were horrified and quickly dodged. Ha ha! Kill! Bu Fifan laughed and took the lead. The flaming saber radiance slashed out violently, and no one was a match for him. On the other side, Sun Chu was also rushing forward. Clang! A sword radiance flashed across the sky. Xian Feng stepped on the sword radiance and moved forward. The people around him avoided him. Get out of my way! Huang Qishuan's mouth was leaking air as he shouted. He brought the people of Phoenix Lake and charged forward. Almost everyone's target was the jade bed. Ah, what's that? A scale. Is that a dragon scale? Someone exclaimed. In the middle of the jade bed, there was a scale. This scale was very special. It was the size of a water tank and was emitting a powerful dragon aura. It was definitely a dragon scale. The scale of a true dragon was definitely a supreme treasure. Kill, it's mine! Sun Chu roared. Sun Chu, don't even think about it. The dragon scale is mine. Bu Fifan roared. Boom, boom. Immediately, a great battle broke out. Those who rushed forward were caught in the battle. Screams were heard. Almost in an instant, hundreds of people were killed. The smell of blood filled the air and corpses covered the ground. Boom! Sun Chu, Bu Fifan, Xian Feng, and Huang Qixuan, the 4 great experts, fought together. No one wanted the other to get the dragon scale. Lu Ming did not move. His eyes were not on the jade bed, but the depths of the cave. There were stone walls on 3 sides of the cave. There were luminous stones on the walls. Only that direction was dark. It was not a stone wall. It seemed to be empty, and there were wisps of black mist lingering in the air. As soon as Lu Ming entered, he felt the 9 dragons' bloodline in his body become restless. It seemed to be thirsting for that direction. Yes, thirsting for it. What was in that direction? Lu Ming was very curious. Forget it. I'll get the dragon scale first. Then Lu Ming moved and pounced on the dragon scale. Kid, don't even think about it. Stop right there. When he was about to get close to the dragon scale, 2 terrifying attacks attacked Lu Ming. One was a phoenix wing, and the other was a flaming saber. Huang Qixuan and Bufifan attacked him. Chapter 4:11. Swish, swish. Lu Ming, Huang Qixuan, Xianfeng, Bufifan, and Sun Chu stood in the air, facing each other. The others were still fighting. Huang Qixuan, you got guts, huh? Do you want to be beaten up again? Lu Ming looked at Huang Qixuan unhappily. Brat, don't be arrogant. Huang Qixuan said coldly. He condensed his true energy to replace his teeth to avoid the awkwardness of his speech. On the side, Bufifan and Sun Chu looked at Lu Ming with a solemn expression. Of course, they noticed Huang Qixuan's miserable state. Could it be that he was beaten up by Lu Ming? If that was the case, they would have to reevaluate Lu Ming. Everyone, this brat is very sinister. He has a hidden weapon that is impossible to guard against. I was ambushed by his hidden weapon. I suggest we work together to kill this brat first, then we can fight for the dragon scale. Huang Qixuan said coldly. Hee, is that so? Lu Ming suddenly patted Dandan. Swish! Dandan flew out, smashing towards Huang Qixuan. You, what are you doing? Huang Qixuan roared. He was so angry that he was bleeding internally. Lu Ming did not play by the rules. Since he could not win the argument, he immediately took action. What was this? Huang Qixuan used all his strength to resist. But bang! Dandan still smashed his face. His face, which had recovered a little, was smashed into dog shit again. Ah! Huang Qixuan roared like a madman, almost losing his mind. His face was smashed again, and again, Huang Qixuan felt like he was going crazy. His Bufifan, Sun Chu, and the others sucked in a breath of cold air. Lu Ming's stone egg was too strange. It appeared and disappeared unpredictably, and it could ignore all kinds of energy attacks. It was impossible to guard against. When they looked at Lu Ming, their eyes were extremely solemn. Everyone, now that Huang Qixuan is injured, his battle prowess has been greatly reduced. Why don't we join forces and kill Huang Qixuan first? We will have one less competitor. Lu Ming shouted. Unconsciously, Sun Chu, Bufifan, and the others' gazes shifted to Huang Qixuan. Lu Ming was right. The situation would be clearer if he killed one of them first. As for killing Lu Ming, although they wanted to, they didn't have the guts. If they were hit by Lu Ming's stone egg, they wouldn't feel good. Huang Qixuan felt a chill run down his spine when he was stared at by these people. He shrieked and retreated 100 meters, cautiously looking at Bufifan, Lu Ming, and the others. Lu Ming's eyes were extremely unfriendly. He really wanted to find an opportunity to get rid of Huang Qixuan. Ah, what the hell is this? Help! At this moment, some of the people who were fighting suddenly cried out in alarm. Lu Ming and the others were startled and couldn't help but look over. Around the underground cavern, there were wisps of blood qi rising from the ground. The smell of blood assailed their nostrils. On the ground, strange patterns appeared out of nowhere. What was even more shocking was that blood-red tentacles stretched out from the ground, entangling some of the experts. Those experts struggled with all their might, but they couldn't break free from the blood-red tentacles. Ah, my blood! Those who were entangled screamed in horror because their blood was being sucked away by these tentacles. In less than a dozen breaths, more than a dozen people were sucked dry, dying an unnatural death. Everyone felt a chill run down their spines, their teeth chattering. They remembered that before they entered the dragon cave, they also saw a large number of corpses outside. Those corpses were also sucked dry of blood, just like the scene in front of them. How could this be? What is this thing? Swish, swish. The patterns on the ground glowed, and the number of tentacles increased. More and more people were entangled. Run, quickly run. This is a demonic land. Run. Many people screamed in horror and turned around to run. Let's go, let's get out of here. Bufifin, Sun Chu, and the others gritted their teeth and gave the order to retreat. Although the dragon scales were precious, they needed to be alive to use them. This place was too strange. It was not worth it to stay here and lose their lives. Today, none of you will leave. At this moment, a sinister voice sounded. Swish, swish. Suddenly, figures appeared on the walls of the underground cavern. These figures were dressed in black robes. They were hiding in the holes in the walls, and no one noticed them. There were about 100 of them. As soon as these people appeared, their hands shot out rays of light into the ground. The patterns on the ground shone brightly. Then more blood-red tentacles rushed out from the ground, blocking everyone's path of retreat. There were at least a few thousand tentacles waving wildly and entangling the crowd. This time, 50 to 60 people were entangled by the tentacles. They screamed in horror as their blood was sucked dry. After their blood was sucked dry, more tentacles rushed out from the ground. This is the Great Inscription Formation. Who are you? Bufifin slashed out with his saber. A blazing saber ray shot out and cut off 5 or 6 tentacles. However, the severed tentacles quickly grew back. I spent so much effort to set up the Grand Annihilation Formation. How could you possibly break it? The sinister voice sounded again. A young man in a blood-red robe walked out from the darkness. There was a lifelike blood-red dragon embroidered on his blood-red robe. The young man's face was very pale, and he looked extremely sinister. Tell me, who are you? Bufifin shouted. Since you're going to die here today, there's no harm in telling you. We're from the Dragon Burial Abyss. The young man in the blood-red robe smiled. What? You're from the Dragon Burial Abyss? Bufifin and the others exclaimed in disbelief. It was not that the other party was strong. On the contrary, the Dragon Burial Abyss had always been very mysterious, just like the ancient Desolation City. However, the ancient Desolation City had a peerless expert. However, the Dragon Burial Abyss was different. There were very few experts who came out of the Dragon Burial Abyss. There had never been a genius from the Dragon Burial Abyss who participated in the selection of the Imperial Divine Guards. Therefore, no one knew the true strength of the Dragon Burial Abyss. They only roughly classified it as a large area. This time, not only did the people from the Dragon Burial Abyss appear, but they also set up a great formation to kill them. No wonder they were shocked. Impossible. How did you get in? Sun Chu shouted. When they came in, they did not see the people from the Dragon Burial Abyss. Moreover, according to the young man in the blood-red robe, they seemed to have set up the formation a long time ago. You're so naive. Do you think there's only one entrance to the Dragon Cave? The young man in the blood-red robe sneered. Let me tell you, The reason why the dragon cave appeared was because of us. We deciphered the inscriptions of the dragon cave to attract geniuses like you. As long as I kill you and absorb your blood, my dragon devourer divine skill will reach the greater success stage. In this selection of the Imperial Divine Guards, I will definitely become one of the 4 heavens divine guards and lead the dragon burial abyss to the peak. Ha ha ha. Chapter 412. A trap. Everything was a trap. Everyone understood that everything was a trap set up by the people of Dragon Burial Abyss. Although they didn't know what method the people of Dragon Burial Abyss used, the reason why the Dragon Cave appeared was because of them. The reason was that the genius of Dragon Burial Abyss wanted to use their blood to cultivate a divine technique. You want my blood? Dream on. Huang Qixuan roared. His arms shook as he used the Crimson Phoenix slash. Under one attack, more than a dozen tentacles were cut off. Unfortunately, it was useless as more tentacles would be formed soon. Haha, it's useless. My trap is foolproof. Just wait for your death. The blood-robed youth sneered. Let's join forces and rush in the same direction. Xian Feng, who had been silent, said, Okay, I agree. I agree too. Bufifan and Sun Chu nodded. Lu Ming also nodded. Okay, let's go. Huang Qixuan roared as he used the Phoenix Wing Slash and rushed towards the exit. Clang! Whoosh! Sword light, saber light, fist light, spear light, they gathered together and rushed towards the exit. In an instant, more than 100 tentacles were destroyed. Before the tentacles could recover, they had already rushed a few hundred meters away. Use all your strength to control the array and stop them. The blood-robed youth's expression changed as he roared. Around him, more than 100 youths of Dragon Burial Abyss shouted in unison. True chi surged as inscriptions formed in their hands and sank into the ground. All of a sudden, more tentacles appeared around Lu Ming and the rest. They were densely packed and constantly entangled toward them. For a moment, even if they joined forces, they couldn't break out. Kill! At this moment, the blood-robed youth shouted as his figure flashed and rushed into the array. His movement technique was like a ghost as he flashed among the tentacles. Those tentacles ignored him. Die! The blood-robed youth clawed out. His claw was as red as blood, and his target was Huang Qixuan. Huang Qixuan was obviously injured, and he wanted to kill him first. Huang Qixuan roared as he used the Phoenix Wing Slash to clash with the blood-robed youth's claw. Boom! Huang Qixuan's body shook as he staggered back. The blood-robed youth's figure flashed and disappeared among the tentacles. Bufifan and the others wanted to help, but it was too late. Whoosh! Whoosh! The blood-robed youth flickered a few times and appeared behind Huang Qixuan. His blood-red claws were like the claws of a blood dragon as they clawed at Huang Qixuan. Huang Qixuan fought back with all his might. It had to be said that the blood-robed youth's strength was extremely terrifying. He wasn't any weaker than Huang Qixuan at his peak. Huang Qixuan was not a match at all. With the tentacles wrapped around him, Huang Qixuan was completely at a disadvantage. After several moves, Huang Qixuan's body trembled, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. At this moment, a tentacle wrapped around Huang Qixuan. Break! Huang Qixuan roared and struggled with all his might. However, he was only able to break free from a few tentacles. Around him, even more tentacles wrapped around him. No, save me! Huang Qixuan panicked and cried out in shock. Slash, slash! Bufifan, Sun Chu, and the rest exerted their full strength, trying to save Huang Qixuan. Usually, they couldn't wait for each other to die. But now, they were all in the same boat. One less person meant one less power. If you want to save him, take care of yourself first. The blood-robed youth sneered. In a flicker, he charged towards Bufifin, exchanging several moves with Bufifin. Ah! Huang Qixuan screamed miserably. His body shriveled up rapidly as the blood in his body was sucked out. Save me! Save me! Ah! Huang Qixuan screamed. His voice was filled with unwillingness and fear. Several breaths later, his screams came to an abrupt end as he turned into a dried corpse. Huang Qixuan, the strongest person in a super region, a rare genius who had reached the fourth battle, died in this place, turning into a dried corpse. Ah, ah! Screams echoed in the surroundings. At this time, less than 100 people had died. Most of the young experts' blood had been sucked out. After absorbing so many young geniuses' blood, the Annihilation Array's power became even more terrifying. The entire cavern was filled with blood-red tentacles. At this time, those tentacles actually merged together. Several tentacles merged into one. Their power was even more terrifying. Even Lu Ming and the rest found it difficult to defeat them. As for the remaining 100 or so young geniuses, they were entangled by the tentacles in just a few breaths' time. Screams continued to echo as the Annihilation Array became even more frenzied. Inside the array, only Lu Ming, Bufifin, Sun Chu, and Xianfeng were left. At this time, Bufifin and Sun Chu's eyes flickered with fear. Lu Ming frowned, while Xianfeng's face was cold and stern. Ha ha! Only the 4 of you are left. All of you can die. The blood-robed youth laughed loudly. 9 dragons trampling the heavens. Suddenly, Lu Ming turned around and took a step forward. This step was not in the direction of the exit. Instead, it was in the opposite direction of the exit. It was in the direction of the pitch-black darkness. Boom! 7 to 8 tentacles were destroyed. Lu Ming rushed forward, his long spear thrusting out. The power of wind and fire merged, destroying 3 tentacles that were trying to entangle him. What are you doing? Bufifin roared. At this critical moment, Lu Ming actually dashed in the opposite direction. It was fine if he was courting death, but their strength had been weakened. Sun Chu's face was extremely ugly. Only Xianfeng's expression did not change. Even the blood-robed youth was slightly stunned. Is this brat stupid? The blood-robed youth sneered. Heaven's path, Palm. Lu Ming did not say a word as he continued to charge inside. Ignore that brat. We'll charge with all our strength. Bufifin roared. The 3 of them worked together and continued to charge outside. Humph! That brat is charging inside. That's a dead end. Only death awaits. Use all your strength to control the array and deal with those 3. The blood-robed youth ordered. Immediately, the 100 or so young geniuses controlled the array, and more tentacles rushed towards Bufifin and the rest. With this, the number of tentacles in front of Lu Ming decreased by several times, greatly reducing the pressure on him. Boom! Boom! Lu Ming continuously blasted out several Heaven's Path palm imprints, destroying a large number of tentacles in front of him. Lu Ming continued to charge forward. It seemed that Lu Ming was about to charge out of the array and enter the dark place. The blood-robed youth's eyes flashed as he muttered, "No, this brat's behavior is strange. He might have something to rely on. I have to stop him first." With a flash, the blood-robed youth's body appeared in front of Lu Ming like a ghost. "Stay here." The blood-robed youth shouted coldly as his blood claw grabbed at Lu Ming. A strong wind whistled, filled with the smell of blood. Whoosh! Lu Ming thrust out his long spear and collided with the blood-red claw. A powerful force surged, and Lu Ming's body involuntarily retreated 2 steps. "Get lost!" Lu Ming shouted as he stepped out. "I've said that none of you can leave the array. Become my nourishment and help me cultivate a divine skill." The blood-robed youth shouted coldly as his blood claw clashed with Lu Ming's foot. Immediately, both of them retreated 3 steps. "Dandan!" Lu Ming suddenly slapped the stone egg. Whoosh!